the bullets are hitting the ditch, like right in front of me. Like I see the sand popping up. I'm like, this is ridiculous. It's all based on your own action, and that's the only thing you have control over. So if you want to be a smart person, then read books. If you want to be capable, then get good at things. If you want to be confident, then do the thing a lot. And it doesn't matter. If you want to be tough, then do hard things. All of the qualities and things that you value only come from doing things that are hard. Competition is like a microcosm of life for me now. Trying to win without caring about the outcome, trying to control somebody while letting go of the control. These two things fighting each other constantly. If what you have seems insufficient, then though you possess the world, it would never be enough. You're putting off happiness now by just wanting more all the time. A man is only as unhappy as he believes himself to be.
How does someone go from being an 18-year-old paratrooper to a self-taught software engineer at PayPal, and then to a full-time jiu-jitsu competitor and YouTube creator? And what happens when that journey includes a bottle of whiskey every night and having mortars explode next to you on a regular basis? I've gotten to know Josh Beam quite well over the past year, and underneath his goofy exterior, he's genuinely one of the most resilient, authentic, and intelligent people I've ever met, and I have an enormous amount of respect for him. This weekend alone, we got tased, we got pepper sprayed, we lost a beach wrestling tournament, did MMA, jiu-jitsu on concrete, and through it all, Josh handled everything with incredible bravery, humor, and optimism. He's someone I'm proud to call a friend. Today, he's telling his whole story for the first time, and it's even more powerful than you might expect. What you're about to hear is ultimately a story of transformation, how someone can go from rock bottom to rebuilding their entire life through small, persistent actions and the occasional brave leap into the unknown. What Josh demonstrates is that the same principles of learning, problem first, learn by doing, and embracing failure work whether you're escaping addiction or mastering jiu-jitsu. This conversation was a very meaningful one for me, and I know it will be very powerful and inspiring for so many of you as well. So without any further ado, here's my interview with Josh Beam. I'm here today with Josh Beam, martial arts YouTuber and world's worst purple belt.
Thank you.
Josh, how you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into it. So where are you right now?
Oh, that's a good question. I went on kind of this like competition bender over a couple years at Blue Belt. And then I got my purple belt and kind of toned down on competing as often, and kind of moved over to focusing more on like doing YouTube videos and stuff. But now what I'm doing is just like I'm still training a lot in jiu-jitsu and still competing like once or twice a month or whatever.
That's wild. That's still a lot.
Yeah, I guess compared to like your average jiu-jitsu practitioner, I guess that's more. But I know a lot of like other competitors and stuff who like they're just doing it all the time. Like the first person that comes to mind right now is Julio Ramage, I think is how you say his last name. I did a video on him called the martial arts problem that nobody talks about. He's a 17-year-old purple belt that beat me pretty bad in a jiu-jitsu world league match. And him and his friend Will, they're going around and traveling all the time and competing at the purple belt level, and they're just really good. So it's really just like this spectrum of how often people are competing and what their expectation is. Like, what does it mean to compete a lot? I guess once you start competing so often, then like once a month, that's nothing compared to a period of time where there was months straight where I was competing every weekend, right? So, and that's what some of these kids are doing too, competing twice a month, competing 3 times a month, whatever. And that's just how it is. And then your average jiu-jitsu practitioner, um, most people don't even like think about competing, which is fine. They're doing jiu-jitsu. Everybody can do jiu-jitsu for their own reasons, whatever, it doesn't matter. So competition to them is just a bigger deal
Right.
when it does come up, right? So I could see, to me, it's just kind of normal to compete. I think probably too for you at this point, like competition for you, like we just did the beach wrestling thing. We were both kind of slightly above baseline as far as like nerves, but it wasn't like a huge deal like it might be for someone newer to grappling, right?
Yeah, it was kind of like a day on the beach where we're gonna wrestle pretty hard. But
Yeah, we were there for like 8 hours or something. It was fun, but they had to follow this sanctioned thing where we had to wait like 30 minutes between matches for everybody. So we're just like on the beach getting sunburned for hours. And then I did like 3 matches. How many did you do? Two?
Dude,
Yeah.
just the two.
That was fun though. Yeah.
It was really fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but something actually, the first person that turned me onto this was DeAndre Corbet, who
Yeah.
you know. But he said something, the way he said it was like not very profound. But there, like the wording itself, if he just wrote it down on paper, it'd be like, oh well, of course.
Yeah.
But he was talking about like the invariant thing in competitors is that they're competitive, that they compete a lot, right? If you look at like athletes using the traditional approach to jiu-jitsu, using the constraints-led approach to jiu-jitsu, what's the one thing they have in common? The people that do really well, they compete a lot,
Yeah.
right? And this is a really big thing. So if we think about in ecological dynamics, we have this concept of representative design, right? We want practice to look like the performance environment. So, for most people, that may look like, okay, what does a full 100% sparring round look like in
Yeah.
training? But that's different than a competition,
Yeah. It's still
right?
different. Yeah.
It's still sometimes very different.
Yeah.
And when you're thinking about it that way, of like the competition is your performance environment, even the sparring is different than that. And so it becomes really interesting where people give some like, it doesn't work this way. However, if we were to approximate, if we were to give like a certain value to like how much training experience is a competition worth, and I think it's different for everyone. But I don't think we've actually ever had this conversation, which is like kind of wild to think about.
Yeah.
How valuable is competitive experience to you training wise, like as far as your skill development as a grappler?
It's such an interesting question because I did so much competition and not enough training when I was competing. So the thing that competition taught me how to do was how to compete and be more comfortable in that environment, and it taught me how to play to something that would get me to win competition matches, which doesn't necessarily make you a good jujitsu player. And it depends on so many different things. I think like your skill level. So I was competing at blue belt, and I got really good at ankle locking because that would win me matches really quick, and I could just ankle lock blue belts a lot easier. But then you get to purple belt, and that thing gets a little bit more difficult. And then the other thing that happens is you start learning like um, one way to win matches at the expense of learning all of other jujitsu, right? And I'm traveling around competing all the time, and all of my training is coming from just doing this thing over and over to try to win matches. It's a very like specific thing that's happening. Um, I think for like a normal person, the thing that competition is worth, by normal person, I mean somebody who goes about a normal life and competes sometimes.
They train 3 times a week.
Sure, and then maybe has done 3 competitions in a year or something like that, right? Which I think that would probably be pretty normal for somebody.
Yeah.
Um, and even for somebody who competes a lot, like Julia or for me or you or DeAndre or whoever, I think the competition experience is like one of the few things in jujitsu which very clearly gives you an answer to what you're bad at.
Yeah.
Yeah, like right away. 'Cause there's no like second guessing it, because in a sparring round at the gym, two people are like the intentions can be kind of all over the place of what you're trying to get out of that sparring round. People might be going at different intensities. They might be trying a different move. That's where these stories come from of like a white belt thinking that they submitted a purple belt, but the purple belt was trying to like let them work from a bad position, all this kind of stuff. Nobody knows exactly what's happening in sparring unless you're really talking about it and really thinking about it. But competition is different. You can still have different intentions in competition, but the one objective is to win, and you're not always trying to win sparring rounds. And so to me, like when you get beat in a very specific way in a competition, it's like a big light bulb moment. It's like nothing is clearer than when you experience this like very high stress situation and then just get completely smashed by something, and the match is over in 30 seconds, and you just paid $150, and then you go home and you're like, well, fuck me.
That sucked.
Yeah, like, okay, I didn't expect that. I guess I'll work on that. You know,
Right.
that's what I get it from. But I'm curious what you think too.
Yeah. Someone told me once that a competition is worth 3 months of training.
It's weird to draw parallels like that, but I'm curious
Yeah.
why they would say that.
There's one level at which this is a fully representative design. This is 100%. It doesn't just feel like a competition in training. It is the competition. 100% representative practice.
Yeah,
Um,
it's hard to make the training representative of competition. Competition is it is the representative environment. It is the environment. Yeah.
exactly. Like there are certain things like, if we're training in a room, like you and I, we're not going to try on each other because it's just like the risk of injury is too high.
Yeah,
You know,
we're not trying to win.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's not like let me just win right now and like Josh's,
pops his
what
ACL.
what happens to Josh's knee is not my concern.
Yeah, where it is in a competition, like in a competition match, like I've never tried to hurt anybody, but that's when you go into a competition match, you go in there like, yeah, if they get hurt, they get hurt. Like you don't want that to happen, but it's like,
You're
but I
not
wouldn't want that for,
intentionally.
yeah, I don't want that to happen ever to my training partners. Whereas like in competition, it's like, oh shit, I'm sorry, that sucks, but that's part of the competition
Yeah.
sometimes, unfortunately, yeah. But I interrupted, sorry.
No, no. Um, but so yeah, so there's that level where you get to practice like flying submissions and like for instance, like I've done a lot of heel hooks now over like the past 2 years. I've never cranked one.
Yeah.
I've never tried to like I need to make this guy tap.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what if I had to like because in competition people are going to tap to the threshold is a lot higher.
Yeah.
I've never had to really crank and experience like how do I really create a lot of rotational torque here when I've already got a good bite on the heel. It may be so that's a skill that in some way hasn't been developed at all yet.
Yeah.
And I can't really develop that outside of
Unless you
competition
compete, yeah.
in a very small, only in competitions where I get a heel hook,
Yeah.
and where the guy hasn't tapped yet.
It's a very small chance potentially of that happening.
Flying submissions, I haven't practiced it at all. I'm not doing those in training and I haven't tried them in competition, So there's a level of that. There's another level, like you were saying, of I think this is the most important part. If you're competing, especially in a tournament setting, there's going to be all sorts of people with different games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're good because otherwise they wouldn't. They're out here with the intention of trying to win. Otherwise they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't have paid all this money. They wouldn't have drove out here, flown out here, right? They've got some level of intention, and they've all got completely different ways that their game has organized. They've self-organized a different skill set in a different body in a different gym to win competitions. And so to like get exposed to that. And now all of those different people from different environments are now trying to like find your one weakness and like capitalize on anything they can.
Mm-hmm.
So like in training, you may be good at ankle locks, but I know you're good at ankle locks, right? And so as good as you may be, I get used to that over time.
Mm-hmm.
Versus if I'm never exposed to that and now I go compete and now there's the ankle lock guy.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get ankle locked in 12 seconds and you're like,
Exactly.
yeah.
But now I know, okay, dude, I got to work on the ankle locks.
Yeah.
So like put me in an ankle lock.
Yeah.
And we work on that for a month. And now I so clearly get to work on like my biggest weakness, which very likely wasn't exposed in training.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's one of the reasons why sometimes when people ask me how to prepare for competition, I say to try to go to other open mats. Remind me of that after the podcast, actually, because I need to put that on my email list. I'll plug that later. But that's actually a topic that I need to send.
Should we just tell people what's your email list? How
yeah.
can they get on your email list?
I need to put a link. Can we just put a link in the description?
Yeah.
Email list. I send out like competition stuff, like tips and mindset tips, and also I'll be sending like videos about like games. For signing up to the email list, you get like a video with 3 standing games. But anyway, back to the podcast. I tell people a good way is to like go to random open mats that you wouldn't have gone to, because when you go to a competition, it's exactly what you're going to experience is like people from random gyms who are good at random things that because I've noticed training at so many different gyms. Like I've trained at gyms like kind of all over the world at this point, in Europe, all over the U.S., stuff like that. And different gyms have like people have different patterns. They're not always as like discrete. Like this is a De La Riva gym and this is a this gym because everybody's different. Everybody's
Yeah.
got different styles, but there's sometimes patterns where like people are good at like a certain way of doing things in different gyms or something like that, and you get a different look. That's what wrestlers say, right? Like you want to get
Give
different
you
looks,
different
right?
looks. Yeah.
Yeah, you get different looks, and that's what happens when you go to competition is you get a bunch of different looks that you're not used to if you're training with the same people all the time. So it's getting the variability,
Yeah.
right?
That's great advice, actually. I've never
Yeah,
thought of that.
yeah. Just go to open mats, like um, in the Bay Area, for example. There's that Instagram Bay
One
Area
World.
open mats.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, One World's got an open mat, but they list all the different open mats throughout the weeks and the weekends, and there's things like. I guess this is turning into a plug. It's not meaning to, but like the Coffee Crew
Yeah.
is like this open mat in the Bay Area that rotates between different gyms. It's like Sunday mornings, and everybody from all over the Bay Area comes there. And it's like these are the perfect opportunities to get those different looks if you're training for a competition, is going to those things. Obviously, you're not going there to try to win open mats, but you're going there to like try to roll with people who look like they would be in your division. And like
Yeah.
go with those people, go with like all the different black belts that you don't normally see. um like I think those are the perfect opportunities for competition training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of which, like, I feel like I personally really got exposed like this beach wrestling,
Yeah.
like, man, I thought my standing was good.
Yeah.
It clearly is not up to par. So I've got to, we got to go back to the drawing board a little bit. Like,
Yeah, I liked that. I got exposed too with like everybody's got like their move there. I saw
yeah,
it was very obvious watching in the wrestling. Like there was the throw by guy, there was
the wrist snap
the
guys.
wrist snap guy, there was the dudes who like are super low, and it was very interesting to not only get our asses beat in like several different ways, but also see that in competition everybody's got their like way they do things. The
Yeah.
head and arm throw guy that got me, yeah, the wrist snap guy, the throw
Mhm.
by guy, the
Mhm.
judo guy. Like they're all winning in different ways. Yeah,
Yeah. And I will say for our benefit, like these were not only what I would say are collegiate level wrestlers, but like the guy that beat me in the second round, when I talked to him later, he had wrestled. He was on his 6th year of wrestling in college.
yeah, which is
These
crazy. Like
guys are
this was a
good.
national beach wrestling championship to qualify for the
World team.
world team for beach wrestling. Yeah, so these guys, some of those girls had bigger necks than I do. Like not to
The
not
girls were
talking shit
good.
about
The
girls.
girls were good
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like yeah, it was that was I think I expected it to be like higher level for sure, but yeah, it was even more intense than I probably thought, um but yeah, different looks, different ways of getting beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you had to put a number to it, I want to give you 3 different parts of the spectrum.
Okay.
So if you had to put a number, how much training is it worth to do a competition? How much training progress is it worth to do a competition for a normal person, right? Like normal jujitsu average, like training 3 times a week. Maybe they're not competing at all,
Mhm.
right? Or maybe they compete once every few years. Someone like that. And then for you at this point, or like near this point, where like after you'd been really competing a lot, you've been doing like tons and tons of competitions, like do you still get value out of them and make progress out of them? If so, how much? And then also, because one of the other things that it seems like you've been doing recently is like you've kind of been going into uh, these tournaments with like added constraints, right? When you went into like the super heavyweight division and you're
Mhm.
like, I'm not going to pull guard, like
Mhm.
that is a different thing,
Yeah.
And so if you had to quantify how helpful that has been, and
Mhm.
then also kind of there,
doing different tournaments, like doing the judo tournaments?
Yeah, I think for like it's so hard to put a number because one caveat is that I think there are some things that you'll probably never learn unless you compete. The
Mm.
classic example is like accepting bottom position. I hear that from like people across the board, even brown belt level. People who just don't compete. They're uh, like having fun rolling at the gym. The first thing that happens when they go to compete is that they learn that if they don't fight to get on top when they should, they're going to be on bottom, which is something that doesn't happen sometimes too often in certain training environments. Um, Another thing that you'll never learn if you don't compete is like whenever I'm like doing rolls in the gym, like I know if I won the, I'm not like, yeah, I won a sparring round in the gym, but I know how many points were scored on me. I just know that. Like
Mm.
I'm not actively thinking like, oh wait, how many points was that? Like calculating in my head. I just know like, okay, I just got swept. I'm down two. I need to get back up. Like it is just a reflex. I'm like, I don't want to now have lost top position. I need to get back on top now because I just got scored on. That just like impacts my jujitsu. Yeah. Which I don't know if you'll ever have those
I don't have that at all.
that
That's
instinct.
so
Yeah,
that's so funny that you say that. I don't
yeah,
have
you
that
don't.
at all.
Oh, that's interesting. That's like,
I've a few times really tried to do it and I struggle.
yeah, that's like the main thing my brain goes to when I'm rolling, and it's not like I don't think I'm hyper competitively trying to win training, but it's just like, oh, I'm down two now.
It's a different source of information that you're attuned to.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, like so like you'll never learn that if you don't compete. You just won't know what that feels like to be down 2 points and be like, fuck, I have 5 minutes left. I'm looking at the clock right now. If there was a clock there, um, I need to get on top and then pass the guard, or else we're gonna be tied, and then it's gonna go to ref decision. So I need to pick up the aggression now. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, yeah, all those little things that I don't think you think about unless you've competed. So like for a normal person, I think it'll be kind of like a scale of the types of things you learn. It's so hard to say, but like, let's just put a number to it. Compete once. Um, that's got to be like at least a month of training. Like it's a significant amount of new information that you're getting from competing. I think
Yeah.
that I think it's because of the density of information you're getting in
Yeah.
competition.
And the relevance of that information too.
Yeah, density and relevance of information. It's applicable to specifically you, as opposed to like a whole class. Um, Specific to a very certain situation. It's also very emotionally driven. You want to fix this thing because like you messed it up in a competitive setting, which is usually high emotional stakes for most
Mm-hmm.
people. As much as I think like tough guys don't want to admit it, like especially people who don't compete. Um, that's yeah, whatever. Gracie Combatives. No, I'm just kidding. It's a lot harder. I think like that's the real place to like test stuff, right? I think people have there's the Dunning-Kruger effect. People have a lot higher confidence in themselves. It's like compete. So if you take a person on the street and ask them if they can fight, a common response is like, yeah, like I'll be able to whoop somebody's ass. Like they're untrained, they don't know about training. Same thing, I think that effect can exist to a degree for people who haven't competed yet. There
Yeah.
might be this sense that they're performing well in the training room, so therefore they will perform well in competition. Everybody else who's going to competition is also performing well in their training rooms. It's a different set of people now that you're like going against. Um, um, so the yeah, high emotional stakes. There's all of this dense information that's very relevant to you that's happening in a very short period of time. Whereas like some of those pieces of information, you might get exposed to it for like a short period of time in like one random training session, and then all of those training sessions to get all that those some of those pieces of information is spread out over a month or something. So maybe that's a way to look at it, but
Totally.
with the caveat we said that like there's some information that you just won't get unless you compete.
Yeah.
Um, and then for me, competing now, um, it's really just like a iterative process now. Like I'll go compete and like something will happen and then I'll iterate on that in practice. Like that informs the training that I set up.
How so?
Because we just run our own training.
Well, so
Yeah.
tell me a story about like something, an example of like when that happened, how it happened, how you
Yeah.
modify.
Let me see what's a good one. There was head and arm stuff. There was turtle. So at the San Jose Open at the beginning of this year, there was couple different situations where I was like passing the guard and getting to turtle. Actually, even in one match, I like passed the guard like 3 times and the guy turtled, and I just consistently couldn't break him down and take his back. And it's like just so obvious that that's the situation that I needed to work on. So then I started just because we do the CLA games for training, so we just started working from turtle for like a week straight. And
Nice.
it's not like there was this like specific move that was messed up or something. It's like from a turtle situation, how can I break this guy down and score points and or submit him, right? It's like a clearly that was the situation that was messed up. It used to be a long time ago whenever I was competing a lot and like I didn't know about the CLA stuff, that I was just like, oh, there was this one technique that I messed up. Yeah, or this guy got this technique on me. He did this move, or I did this move, and I would try to like fix moves. But now I'm like, okay, I just need to. I got to turtle, and that's where everything unraveled. That was the thread. So I need to like be in turtle situations and figure out how to accomplish certain things from there.
Experientially, how have those been different? Like trying to address problems in the traditional approach from a traditional perspective versus now from a more ecological perspective.
Yeah, because the moves only happen sometimes. Like we can all look at a thing that happens. That I had this question for a long time. Like, okay, if we don't drill techniques, that must mean that techniques don't exist, right? So then, like, what is this move I'm seeing this guy hit? Like, we can like stereotype things. We can call moves things, but so like a move might be um, like a Choi bar, or like um, a tilt sweep from De La Hiva, like whatever we want to call these things. But those things are only happening because like that move was available in a specific situation, right? That the move was available, the affordance was there, right? Whatever we
Mm-hmm.
want to call this, that move was there because something else was happening in that situation. Like I'm not able to maintain balance on 2 feet in this alignment, the way we're, if this guy has a tight De La Hiva hook. The situation it causes the problem, and like usually it's like a lot more simple than we make it. Like if I would learn how to stand on 2 feet and stay there in while somebody has that tight De La Hiva hook or something, that's really the problem I need to solve. And maybe this guy hits this like certain De La Hiva sweep on me, but that's not the problem necessarily. And hyper fixating on these like moves that people are doing or a move that I want to execute, it's like kind of just focusing on the wrong problem. And it's focusing on a problem that will happen much more rarely than the complete situation that you're in. And so like learning how to like fix a situation rather than like a move that might happen sometimes is like way more beneficial, I think. Because it'll encompass not only maybe that move that guy hit, but like maybe 10 other moves that are available in that situation. So that's kind of how my mind shifted. I don't care so much if I'm in a turtle situation about um, like we use the power half all the time to break people down. We're laughing because we were filming a video with Seth today where we were just using Seth as a 3-stripe white belt, Sensei Seth on YouTube. He's a 3-stripe white belt in jiu-jitsu. He's a really good all-around grappler. He's a green belt in judo. He's done 43 martial arts. We learned that number today. But we kept doing a power half to break him down from turtle. And instead of rolling like most people do when you apply a power half, he was just tapping. He's like, ow, that hurts my neck. Yes, Seth.
You just roll, bro.
Just roll over. But so yeah, not hyper fixating on fixing moves, which may happen very rarely. Depends on who you're going against. But focusing on the situation that allows all those things to happen.
Have you noticed that that's a lot more effective for you?
Yeah, I've Because I also have only been training exclusively with CLA since like April of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been like exclusively training this way, and like it's overly complicated. It just doesn't feel efficient to be like, maybe there are like some very specific situations that are helpful to like work through. For example, like, but those all really just boil down to very specific like body alignments. Like if you're getting boloed, baron boloed in competition or something, okay, just start from like the where the guy was on you.
Like a deep De La Riva hook.
Yeah, or even farther down, like he's already almost on your back or something like that. And like it all just boils down to like how you guys are configured right now, what he's grabbing, what you like, and just like working from there and trying to figure out how to like get out of that situation. And like I'll dude, I look up moves on YouTube. Like I don't, it's kind of funny, I think, in the ecological space, that it's like bad, like kind of seen as bad to like be looking at techniques and stuff, but there's still that knowledge component. I think what we're talking about in the ecological, at least to me, this is my current like view of it when we're talking about techniques and stuff versus like this way of training using games and everything. To me, it's a question of like, how do you actually train efficiently? I don't want to use my training time like gaining knowledge that I could just go look up on YouTube or something. I want to spend my time training in these situations and playing these games and like building skill. So like if somebody did a move to me, I'll look up what that move was. Like I'll watch a Danaher instructional. Like it
Sure.
doesn't matter. It's
Sure.
like all of this stuff is beneficial, which is weird. It probably sounds weird at this current state of affairs for a guy who's strictly trains with CLA to like say that, because I don't think people see those two things as compatible. But I will 100%. I'll also like shadows drill stuff to like work through a problem. Like this guy had his foot here. Like what's going on? Why did he have it here? Working through problems in my brain. But I'm not spending my training session like drilling stuff. I'm sparring.
Yeah.
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 Um.
I mean, is all the research is very clear. You know, like the CLA. You know, we do better when we use tasks.
Yeah.
And also, we do better when we use tasks rather than drill movements,
Yeah.
right? Especially when they're out of context. But it's also very clear feedback is helpful, you know? Um, even when sometimes it's explicit, right? Like external focus cues, effects-based cues are better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even better than that is maybe even like feedback doesn't even have to be verbal,
Mm-hmm.
right? We can just, I think sometimes when we get in this feedback loop of like, oh, you don't understand why you're doing the thing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, okay, we run the game, you make some mistake, right? Like, for example, let's say today, right? We're doing MMA. I've never done MMA. I've never sparred with striking.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm making like wild beginner day one mistakes of like keep your hands up, right?
Yeah. You're kind of like this,
Yeah.
walking straight into me.
No need to like.
Do you want me to explain more?
Do the thing.
Parrying punches like this.
No. Josh
Okay,
was
he
saying
parried one
earlier
punch like
that
that.
that I parry punches like this.
Yeah, you parried one. It's on video. You parried one punch like that.
But so like we could think of that as like, okay, we ran the task. It's a representative environment. So like let's use some like feedback and explicit feedback here. Hey, keep your hands up. We can do that. It's effective.
And you can listen to that and do that, and then suddenly,
And
when your hands are in front of your face, you're kind of getting hit less a little bit.
yes,
Yeah.
and
Sometimes.
also, yeah,
Yeah.
totally, right?
Yeah.
And also, we could also just redesign instead of giving the explicit feedback of like, okay, let's retrain your brain and your intention and all that. We can also just like
Change the task.
change the task. The
Yeah,
feedback
yeah,
can
yeah.
be the task itself.
Yeah. So
you know?
yeah, which is like a lot more effective. Yeah.
So like, okay,
To
so
just alter
instead
the
of
task, yeah.
instead of just like, Bren, keep your hands up, you know, which actually is not a solution to the problem.
Right.
The real problem is
You're getting
I
hit in the
need to
face.
like not get hit in the face.
Yeah.
And
Which
like,
can include head movement, parrying punches. Like we were talking about this earlier in the UFC. You see guys fighting with their hands down all the time, throwing punches from their hip. Like, yeah.
everyone bends the rules.
Yeah.
Sometimes you break the rules.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like the invariant things you don't break, which is
Don't get hit in the
don't
face.
get hit in the face.
Yeah.
Right. And that may be helpful. It may be a little easier to do that when your hands are up, but that's not the real thing that I need to learn,
Yeah.
which is avoiding the punches. So then how can we let's just design another task. Maybe we don't even need to tell me keep those hands up,
Just
right?
start doing
I
it.
shouldn't be thinking about
Yeah.
this. If I'm thinking about this, now I'm not
You're
thinking
not
about
thinking about not getting
you
hit.
punching me, right?
Yeah.
Which is more important.
Yeah.
That's where the task focus should be. So let's just we design another game where like, man, like you can play this with the hands down. Like, or maybe we say keeping your hands up is probably a good idea. And then here's a task where I'm gonna need to like get some head movement going and like learn how to block with my hands in the representative environment.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think there's a few tasks like that. There's because in the striking world, I was telling you earlier, like there's so many games that are played. Like instead of like telling you to like keep your hands up and you're still getting hit, you're like, fuck, I am doing that. Why am I still getting hit? Just like there's all kinds of constraints people play with. Like one guy is allowed to maybe just punch with his left hand and you have to keep your arms behind your back. Suddenly you're learning head movement. And you both have to keep your foot, you both have to keep your front foot touching.
Exactly.
Now, like, you have to use head movement.
There's
There's no other
nothing
way to
else.
win the game. There's no other way to not get hit unless you start learning to use head movement. And the feedback is so instant because the moment you get hit, it hurts and you're like, fuck. Yeah.
And then what we can do as well is like, let's just moderate that intensity a bit.
Yeah. Tell
right?
the guy using his left hand, like, okay, try to just touch his head with your hand. Don't try
Great.
to punch through his head. Yeah.
Great.
And then suddenly you're learning head movement. And you know, another way to do that is like, okay, you're not allowed to like move your hands from your forehead and you just have to stand there. He can use his left hand, right? And suddenly you're like seeing, okay, if I move my body this way, my hands are still covering my head. Like maybe the guy now can only throw these long looping hook punches and you realize, okay, I can only block these like that. I'm going to only not get hit if I'm doing that. You don't even have to be told that. We just redesigned the task for you to just like, now you just know, you just feel that. Like, boom, the feedback's there. Nobody had to tell you.
Yeah.
Keep your hand up. What do you mean? Keep my, ow. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is like when my hands were up and like it's
still getting
clear in the
hit.
video, you're just punching right through in between, right through. Like it
around the
wasn't a
side,
big
like,
impediment for you at all.
yeah.
You
right.
know, because it's again, I like you were showing, like I need to figure out again this combination of like moving the arms to defend, moving the head, footwork, right?
It's funny you're doing it right now. Like the way you're moving right now, I think because you started to feel it afterwards even. You started to look like an actual like fighter for a second. Like
What are you implying about earlier?
well, earlier you were head movement.
It looked, when I watched the video, it looked horrible.
It's so weird how like everything looks so much different than it feels, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the other big thing. It's like that's why actually part of like circling back to the training and competition conversation is like a lot of the time people are ask me like how to like improve that like their techniques and stuff like that. I'll be like, just watch, like I just like to watch myself on video, and if something looks uncoordinated, I'm probably doing it wrong. If I just don't look athletic, if I don't look coordinated, like it doesn't matter where my foot should have been or all this kind of stuff. If it like looks weird, if it doesn't look cool, something's going on, right? Like because like I think we attribute words like that, like cool, that looks cool as fuck, or whatever, like when you see somebody doing something athletic, because I think we have this sense of like that thing is working really well, that guy is moving fast, he's able to like pull off this move on this guy, the movement is sharp and efficient, and those, I think we sort of categorize all of those things we're sensing about that as like cool, or like a cool move, slick, sharp, right? That's
Fluid.
Yeah, fluid. All of these words that kind of mean something, and it's really all of this information about all of these different things that are happening in that movement. So I think just looking at yourself and saying like, oh, that felt way different than it looks to me on camera right now. I don't know what this move is that I'm supposed to be doing, but that looks uncoordinated. So let me work in that situation, right?
Yeah.
That's how I like view um, looking at video, because it becomes really cumbersome trying to like scrub through a video being like, oh, my foot should have been here, I should have been doing that. It's kind of useless information that you're not really going to remember. So I like to take a broader view because I'm filming myself rolling all the time, and it's like, how does that move look? How do I look right now? Do I look like an idiot, or do I look like I know what I'm doing? If I look like an idiot in this position, just keep playing in that position until it looks more coordinated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of value in like seeing things. Like for instance, I think about action sports, right? Like there was an explosion in the skill level of like action sports, like
Hmm.
uh, you know, X Games and like all the skiing stuff, right? Things where people are doing a lot of flips and things like that. There was kind of an explosion in skill level as the internet came out
Hmm.
in those sports. And I really think so much of it, and I think everyone in those sports will agree with me, so much of that is just seeing, oh, this guy did that, that's possible. Boom,
Yes.
the baseline has
Yeah.
shifted,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it just keeps going, like if you look at gymnastics, back
Yeah.
in like 60s, 70s, people were like, oh, backflip on the beam, impossible.
Yeah.
Now it's like any high school, like girls are doing it.
Yeah, that's like that. I forget which one of the books it's in. I think one of Rob Gray's books where he's giving the example of the high jump, where they're talking about at a certain point, people went from doing the high jump to how they're doing it
The
now.
Fosbury flop.
Yeah,
Hmm.
which was just nobody was doing it like that up until like a very specific point, and people were like, "Oh, you can do it like that."
Exactly.
Yeah, and like I think there's something to be said for this like monkey see, monkey do type of
Totally.
situation where you get so much information just by watching people do stuff, and then you go try and copy that. And you're
Yeah.
just like, oh, this is how a black belt looks when he moves. Let me try to move like that.
Yeah,
And I think there's something like really powerful to that.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I will also say, like, I used to be, we could say, an instructional junkie.
Hmm.
Like, I was like
Same.
all the Danaher instructionals,
Me too.
like
Yeah.
deep. I had a notebook filled with notes,
Yeah.
um, and I would take notes, and I would watch it multiple times. There
Yeah.
was one of Gordon Ryan's, like, attacking the guard, I think,
Yeah.
systematically attacking the guard.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one.
I wrote out the entire flow chart for
Yeah.
that whole thing.
Yeah.
It was this like wild,
Yeah.
huge thing, right? And so I was doing tons of that before from this traditional perspective. And I will say for me that I have completely dropped that. I don't
Me too.
I don't look and I don't even look for techniques anymore either.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it's not that it's not effective. I think it clearly is. It's just for me with the understanding right now of ecological dynamics, I'm like the ROI on like training is so far like higher
Hmm.
that okay, the ROI on like watching things and like seeing techniques is like still something,
Hmm.
but I'm just like probably not worth it.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. There was a period of time for probably most of the past year since like April of last year where I just literally didn't watch anything. But now, like, there'll be very specific instances where like we're starting from front head and arm situations from turtle at training. I'm like, okay, how are people fucking doing darces? Because I'm not able to choke anybody here anymore. And I'll like look up on YouTube how to do a darce, and then there's like 6 different shorts of like people doing it a different way. And yeah, one black belt showing it different way, saying this thing's important, this thing's important, this thing's important, and I'll just like binge watch like 6 like shorts in a row or something. This guy's like, okay, your hands need to be here. This other guy's like, your feet need to be here. And then I'm able to like figure out, oh, they're all actually doing a very similar thing, but they're all like putting their hand in a different place or something. And like, and then I'll go to training and be like, okay, this is how I guide my like attention and intention while I'm doing this game now, because I don't have a black belt coach in there with me telling me how to do that. So I have to like, that's where that stuff becomes helpful to me.
Totally. I
Yeah.
think that's exactly how you should do it.
Yeah.
You've got a specific situation, you're running the task already, but you're still like, oh, like
I'm not having
something's
success.
not clicking about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, let me go look at like the cultural knowledge.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah,
tap into that and just see generally like what some of other people's solutions look like.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
And you
that
can
gives
even
you,
try to copy those too, and like maybe they work.
yeah.
And you're like, oh, I can dart somebody now.
When I was at Standard, we would do tons of like head and arm games,
Yeah.
and I was struggling with it. I could not get this thing to work, and I was asking everyone about it, and there were different cues that were good, but like it didn't really do the trick,
Hmm.
you know. Um, and I was really struggling with it. Again in the live environment, trying to like with the clear intention, I'm trying to get the choke, and not really getting success against skilled opponents.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I watched the Gordon instructional, and he gave this cue of like pulling your elbow down towards your hip,
Hmm.
like a lat crunch.
Hmm.
Oh, what a difference!
Hmm.
And sometimes because it's just a education of intention,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
That's hard to get sometimes or you get so much of that in training, and that's the progress we make, but you don't get all of it. Otherwise, we'd be perfect.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we just run sparring and we'd spar every day, and then now we're all perfect grapplers with no weaknesses.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, there's weaknesses that come of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
things that it's clearly better. We just didn't find it yet, and that's where it's like, oh yeah, just searching over here. Oh, I was always squeezing like this.
Yeah.
I kept squeezing I never tried
I
squeezing
didn't
like
even
that.
think to squeeze to this side of my body. Yeah. And it just like fixes everything.
Totally.
These like instructionals and binge watching 6 shorts in a row or whatever, it's only useful if you encountered a problem to begin with.
Yes. Yes.
Otherwise, yeah, it's like it's just a bunch of learning a bunch of kind of useless information, and then trying to like implement that information in a scenario that where you're maybe not even receiving the problems that necessitate that information that you just got, and it's like
Yes.
yeah, it's like it needs to be problem first.
Yeah.
Like it's almost useless to just like start showing moves and like because then we start to try to like go to situational sparring to practice those moves, and now at this point we're still kind of like trying to role play, like still nothing works,
Yeah.
like you're just defending against the move that was just taught. And like nothing's you yeah, you
Yeah.
have to like be put in the situations to encounter the problems, and then yeah, you can like seek out information, but like the training should be just presenting you with problems over and over for you to like
Yeah.
explore and like figure out, and hopefully you have a somebody there who's really good at jujitsu who can like guide where you should be focusing your attention and stuff, right? Like try squeezing on your other side, or like stop just stop grabbing him. Like stop grabbing that arm, don't do that. Don't grab that arm anymore during this game.
Friend, move your head.
Yeah, yeah.
Try moving your
Yeah,
head.
try moving your head out of the way. Yeah. Try moving your head out of the way. Yeah. Yeah, because they can like see and they know what's happening alter the task so that they don't have to give you a bunch of information that's just going to confuse you. The task will give you the information, right? And like and then you can go watch a Gordon instructional if it solves your problem.
If you have
like,
time,
yeah, yeah.
go for it.
Yeah.
Shall we switch gears into like Josh Beam,
Yeah,
the
let's do
man, the
it.
myth, the legend?
Sure, the worst purple belt on YouTube. I told him to say that at the beginning, by the way, if you watch this far.
I think I held my composure pretty well.
You did.
That was as good as I could have done.
You did. I was really trying. I think I kind of started cracking a smile a bit, and then I had to like look down.
So,
I should explain that joke, and this might segue into stuff. So on my YouTube channel, I go and like seek out challenges. I'll go seek out like my most recent one was challenging a judo master to sparring is what the video is called, and it's with my friend Soren, who he's a judo black belt. He's been training for 16 years since he was like 4 years old or something like that. He's like 20, 21 or 22, some early 20s right now. Um, just a really good competitive judoka. He was like junior or something champions multiple times and all this different stuff. And I just get my ass whooped on camera, even when he's like blindfolded, even when he's like, because I'm trying to challenge him to judo, and then
Oh, he's blindfolded on one leg.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
And
like,
I'm still
that's
getting whooped.
incredible.
Yeah, and he's incredible. And then I get comments on my video like, "How did this guy get a purple belt?" And that happens in every single video where I'm like, um, I want to like explain this
Representing
with,
jujitsu.
yeah, well, I want to explain this without sounding like I'm trying to like make excuses for why I'm doing badly in my
Well,
videos.
I can say for you
Yeah,
that, like, genuinely, you are very good at stand up,
thank you.
especially now.
uh,
You know, I mean, last year you were decent, but like this year, it is different. Like, you are very skilled from standing. You
Thank
know,
you,
your
thank you.
wrestling, your judo, grip fighting. All solid. Um, I yeah, I 90 well above 99%, I would say, of people like making those sort of comments would not beat you stand up. Like, it's not going to go well. Like, most
uh,
most jiu-jitsu guys are not wrestling much at all.
yeah, yeah.
So like, to go against someone at your skill level there is not gonna, like, you're very good from there. And 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 you know what else, so that I've been thinking about since we did the sumo tournament is, because when I started jiu-jitsu, I was immediately like, I'm gonna stand up every time, because like stand up is the thing, and like, you know, pulling guard isn't gonna work on the streets,
Mm,
or wider, like that's not gonna get me transferred to other things.
mm-hmm,
So let me do grappling in a way where it could work if I wanted to do something else,
mm-hmm,
right? So I'm gonna stand up all the time.
yeah,
Versus it feels like you went more in the direction of like, I'm doing all these competitions. I got to win these competitions.
yeah,
So
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm going to pull guard and I'm going to ankle lock these guys in 15 seconds.
yeah, yeah.
And like, great, perfect competition success.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the environment.
But yeah, it's the environment. So like I have the stance of like, jiu-jitsu is the best martial art,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or like, more broadly, submission grappling
Yeah.
is the best, right? But jiu-jitsu specifically, because of the competition rule set, really drives people towards pulling
Guard
guard.
pulling, exactly. That's the thing I say all the time, because I think the people who are saying guard pulling is stupid just aren't competing. Because you go to a competition, it's like it's just widely known, like it's a default mode of thinking in competition setting. Nobody's questioning somebody who's pulling guard. It's like, oh, this guy might be really dangerous from guard. Like he's going to use that to his advantage in the strategy for this competition. Like nobody's thinking, oh, this guy, he's a twat for not standing up. Nobody's thinking like that in jujitsu competition. That line of thinking is coming from people who just aren't competing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there are some people who are competing who are like, I'm only going to stand up. That's what I want to do. And that's actually what I started doing once I started competing up in weight at middleweight. And
Mm-hmm.
once I really wanted to start getting better at stand up. And when I was training stand up, now I very rarely pull guard in competition, just because it's so much harder for me with the level that my guard is at right now to keep these heavier guys off of me when I moved up in a weight division. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I just want to be on top.
Yeah.
That's it. How do I
Yeah.
do that? And so it's strange to me when I see comments like that about guard like guard point, because the environment dictates what you're gonna do. This goes. I had that same exact thought too. I'm like, it's ecological dynamics. It's the environment that you're in is going to force a certain behavior, and the way that competition jujitsu game is set up is that guard pulling is a very, very um, can be a very advantageous way to win a jujitsu competition. That's just how it is. If you don't want to win jujitsu competitions, then sure, like practice jujitsu however you want, but that's how that behavior manifests. It just is what it is, and um, but how did we get into that part?
I mean, I guess one bit of a small plug here
Yeah.
is like, just for the sport of jiu-jitsu, is like, if we want to change, I think you are very skilled stand up for a jiu-jitsu practitioner,
Thank you.
you know?
Yeah.
And if we want to change the skill level of jiu-jitsu athletes
Mm-hmm.
in stand-up wrestling, grappling situations, what we really need to do is change the rules.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That'd literally be the only way to Yeah, if we didn't value guard pulling, we just need to change the rules and
Change the
people.
rules, make it like, I mean, even ADCC is not enough, I think.
Yeah,
I mean, my personal thought is that grappling is much more exciting when people start standing and when they want to start standing,
and then when
and
they're incentivized to keep
when they're
standing.
when they're not, they're certainly disincentivized to pull guard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I think that's a different thing, and CGI I think has done a really good job
Yeah,
of
they did
that.
a great job with that. Thank you for complimenting me. Can you keep saying that over
Yeah,
and
yeah,
over?
you're great.
Thanks.
Josh is great.
Thanks. Say it again. Just kidding.
Josh is great.
Thanks.
We're like healing some
Yeah,
trauma right now. Ooh.
yeah.
How do you get into jiu-jitsu? How do you get into martial arts?
So it actually kind of started when I was a little tiny kid. I'm 32 now. So back in the 90s when I was like probably around like 5 or something, my dad actually did jujitsu in the 90s when the UFC was getting popular. I have some pictures of him. I think he's still a white belt. But I actually did my first ever tournament when I was 5, and then I like probably just never trained again until I was like 14 or 15. Probably did a few months of jujitsu, stopped again. When I got into the army, did like a few more months of jujitsu, stopped again. And now, so I was kind of like aware and familiar with the concept of jujitsu my entire life, but I started seriously again after I did Muay Thai for um, like 7 years. I started jujitsu seriously again at the age of 28, which was like a little over 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I got into it in 2020 during COVID, the perfect time to start a contact sport. Because of a friend of my then wife. Her husband was the instructor of the morning class um, at the gym.
Who?
Vitor
No
Pascual.
way.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah. So I initially I emailed him. I was like, I don't want to do classes because I'm gonna have to go there and drill. Even back then,
Really?
I was like, dude, I fucking hate drilling. Because the way I did Muay Thai, I just stopped going to classes to do pad work and stuff. I was like, I'm only gonna spar. Because I think, yeah, this leads into the ecological approach discussion again, but just my entire martial arts thing, I just never wanted to drill. It's just like I want to spar because that's where I'm actually learning how to do stuff. Like,
I think we have, it's pretty clear from the research as well. Like, shout out to Tyler Yerby, who did some research on this in his doctoral thesis. But like one of the things he did some coach education of like teaching coaches about ecological dynamics, and they start implementing it. And one of the things that he saw was their athletes started really enjoying the sessions a lot more.
Yeah.
And I think the reason for that is like that we intuitively can feel that when we're just doing these like rote repetitions, jab cross, or like Toriando pass, leg drag, leg drag, leg drag, I think we have this intuitive sense that we're not actually learning the way we actually learn.
Yeah, I think we're doing it because we're told that it's gonna get us some effect. So then we think to ourselves, okay, I have to be disciplined and a good student, and if I do this, then I'll get better. And I just have to suck it up. And the more I can suck it up, we value sucking it up. It shows good character, good discipline. But I think what we don't realize is that that's actually our intuition telling us something, that this isn't something we should suck up. It's
Yes.
actually it's our intuition is telling us this is not the thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is not the effective thing.
Yeah.
So
So
you start seriously getting into jujitsu
yeah,
with
because
Vitor.
of Vitor, yeah, I had initially emailed him and just wanted to do privates. He's like, come to class. I'm like, oh, fine. So I start going to morning class, and like during this time, which I guess we'll get into this, also is during that time I was drinking a lot, like
Mm.
like a bottle of whiskey every night, Jack
Wow.
Daniels, like, and waking up to go to morning class at 6:30 a.m.
Wow.
My baseline was just hungover, uh, so I would wake up and go to morning class. I was like 200 something pounds, hungover, like sweaty, probably smelling like booze going to class.
I mean, at that point, you're probably like sweating alcohol,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Won't name names again, but one person who trained there in that class actually told me like recently that there was one day she noticed, she was like, was he partying all night or something? I was like, I don't think she realized that was my normal state
Wow.
during that time period.
Yeah.
But somehow I was managing to wake up at like 5:45 in the morning to go to the 6:30 a.m. class and started doing jujitsu. And at first um, I was very like cocky because I had done Muay Thai for 7 years. I was like I'm a combat athlete. I know how to do this, and like um, that was just my insecurity about being new to jujitsu and stuff. But I was classic white belt behavior for for a while. I
How
was
long?
full spaz for a while. Probably my first like 6 to 8 months. I was definitely a spaz. Definitely like not very self-aware, very ego-driven in sparring and all that kind of stuff. I think no matter the martial arts experience, you may still be susceptible to white belt behavior.
Even if you're a black belt.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter your belt color.
Yeah. But that was the start, and yeah, there's a lot of places to branch out from there, but
Yeah.
that was the humble beginnings.
So when you started jiu-jitsu, you're still drinking a whole bottle of whiskey pretty much every day.
Yeah, every night. Yeah.
It's fucking wild. How did that like was that a crossfade? Was it like a switch one day or like
That continued all through. I think it was either a bottle of whiskey or like a bottle of sake or a whole bottle of wine or extreme amounts of alcohol every single
Sure.
night. Yeah,
Sure.
drinking until I was like drunk. Um, that was the goal, to be drunk. Yeah,
Sure. Sure.
that's when you feel the best.
Yeah.
Any kids that are watching this, no,
Well,
do the
yeah.
opposite.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into like
Yeah,
reasons, right? Like,
yeah,
because you don't just do that. Like, you don't just get to that. I always have this optimism, right? Like, I don't think people are born with things like this, or like, I don't think anyone is born like mean,
yeah,
like which is separate. But
yeah,
like, I think these things come out of like insecurity and like trauma and uh, things that have happened,
yeah,
and now we have to cope.
yeah.
And so we cope by someone did this to me, so I'm going to do it to someone else,
Mm-hmm.
right? We cope by like, this hurt, so like, what substances do I need to distract myself?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it sounds bad to say that. It's not distract
It's
like it,
coping.
but
Yeah,
it's a coping mechanism,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's kind of like the way I see it is it's like the last coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you run out of other strategies,
Yeah. It's the last ditch
substances
thing.
are the
Yeah,
last thing,
yeah. Nothing else is working. Yeah,
Um,
because the alternative is to just like a different type of suffering. You're suffering if you drink, but then the alternative is a different type of suffering, and you just happen to be sober. And but at least if you suffer while you're drinking, then you can like feel something. You can feel like a little bit more relaxed, a little bit happier. You'll still pay back the suffering, like even starting just a couple hours after you, because now you're already dehydrated and you start suffering immediately, and you're paying it back the next however many days, and paying it back in your relationships and paying it back in everything. But like at least it feels and it very strongly appears to be much better than the alternative of just suffering sober.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, once you get to that point, like I think when you have the mental and emotional resources where you can like, all right, that sucks, but like you are now,
Yeah.
right? Or it's like, something can happen and like you are like one thing that's been very clear this weekend, is like you are very mentally and emotionally like tough. you know, like tough, like not like brittle, you know, like resilient, you
Yeah.
know, like
I'm thinking about all the things we did this weekend. We haven't even mentioned it, but we both got tased.
we lost a beach
A beach
wrestling
wrestling tournament.
tournament.
We were out there for like 8 hours just getting sunburned. I got pepper sprayed. That was excruciating. We were just like doing jujitsu on concrete in the gravel. Um,
In the
scrolling to
mud.
Seth's video in the mud on grass on like yeah, it was. I'm laughing because this weekend was absurd.
This was like quite the
This
test,
is an
you know?
absurd weekend.
And you really handled it like a fucking champ, you
Thanks,
know?
bro.
Like it really with could we say with a lot of stoicism? I don't know if that like quite
I
wording works, but
yeah, I think yeah. So the only trouble sometimes I think people mix the word stoic with the philosophy stoic, but sure, yeah.
yeah. How do we get from where you are there, where you've run out of other resources and it's just like, okay, alcohol is what's needed to like get through the night
Hmm.
to yeah, we can like suffer all this really hard stuff and really challenge ourselves and like you know, you're pretty much like I think you would probably say we had a fun weekend. You
Yeah,
know, like you
suffering.
see
Yeah,
like you know, there's a lot of hard stuff and like you were really suffering with the pepper spray.
yeah,
Um but like you were really suffering I would say for like 30 minutes.
yeah,
And then I would say within another 30 minutes you were like back in a good mood. You
yeah.
know, like that's really awesome,
Yeah.
right?
I was relieved.
How
Yeah,
do we get from to here from there?
yeah. Before that, there's a caveat that like I'm not sober in the sense of like some people go from drinking to being completely sober and just not doing anything. Like I still drink, um, but the amount of alcohol and the amount of drinks I've had in the past like year, like I can probably count those.
Sure.
Yeah, like I'm acutely aware of the days that I did like drink, right? Like whereas before it was just like every day was a blur, right? Like
Sure.
so it's back to like moderation. Um and I'll go months without like having a drink and it's like I don't even think about drinking, right? Like
Yeah. It's awesome.
so I'm not sober in that sense, but um yeah, some people just have to like be completely like abstinent, I guess, for it to work for them. But and the other thing too is like I've noticed in different areas of my life, I'm able to handle a lot better emotionally than other areas. Like I've grown in certain areas, and I'm still like growing in other areas, specifically like relationships, like relationship and like deep human interaction and stuff has always been like sources of like pain for me
Mm.
in a way, and
Mm.
those I'm learning to deal with because all of this other stuff. So how do we get to this point where I am now from that point? It actually started to happen after I separated from my then wife around 2021. I was still drinking a lot, but I started like losing weight, and I would account for the calories from the drinks.
You started tracking your calories and you would include the drinks?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I would still budget for like 140 calories worth of vodka as I'm eating my Greek yogurt and fruit bowl and smoked salmon from Whole Foods, and I would just buy like vodka because like that's lower calorie.
Just as a quick little like aside here before you continue.
uh,
I just want to say like my thing a as a coach, as a teacher,
uh,
has all like we can have really extreme approaches,
uh,
right? We can say like you should never drink, you should never do this, you
uh,
should always do that. And a lot of people, you know, really make a name for themselves with those like really extreme views. But my thinking has always been we got to meet people where they're at and work with how can we move forward. And moving forward for you, if it's like, okay, like one shot of vodka is a
70
hell of a lot
calories.
better. Like I would never recommend that for a client, right?
Uh-huh.
Or like not not for a client that isn't drinking.
Right.
or you know, is
Any
it
client.
in a severe
Yeah,
situation.
yeah, yeah.
But for you in that situation, that is a step forward,
Yeah.
you know?
I was still moving forward. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
That's what it's all
Yeah,
about,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Anyway,
It's like hilarious to say that, but at the same time, I'm like making forward progress. Yeah, and I'm like losing weight. I'm starting to compete at blue belt now. I'm on competition 3 of 80 at this point. It's like almost 300 like matches at this point or something. Um, and I'm dieting and I'm still drinking and like at a certain point I became like a nomad. I got rid of all my stuff. So wife had separated. I started competing. Lease was ending because the owners wanted my townhouse back that I was renting. And I was like, okay, I can either rent another place or I'll just set off and travel the world. And I'm a software engineer at the time, so I can work remotely. I'm like, okay, this is what I'll do. I'll just travel around and compete because I had fun competing. But even when I'm traveling, I'm still like, it got into this really unhealthy cycle of uh, kind of looking back on it a bit of like disordered behavior, like being really healthy and cutting weight for competitions and watching my diet and tracking my calories for like 2 years straight, and then doing a competition wherever I am in the world, Lisbon, Tokyo, Rio de Janeiro, like wherever in the United States, to then immediately after the competition going out and partying.
mm,
So it's like this binge and purge cycle, even
mhm,
though it appears to be healthy.
mm,
Like training and cutting weight and dieting for the competitions and immediately partying afterwards and drinking. So I was still in this cycle
mm,
of like binge and purge, like drink to excess. And I got in trouble. You know some of these stories. So I got in trouble a few times because of that, like still drinking and partying behavior and stuff. The kind of like crossfade point never happened until kind of the end of these like year and a half or 2 years or however long it was of being an actual nomad and traveling the world. Because when I got back to San Jose, I think end of 2023, when I stopped being a nomad, I came back. Yeah, it was almost a full year of being a nomad, but like 2 years of this competing every weekend. Because like for my first year of competing, I was had the home base in San Jose, my townhouse, but I was still flying out and still like
mm,
renting Airbnbs and staying in a place for 2 weeks, even though I still had technically had my renting my place. I was spending way too much money. But it never happened until I came back to San Jose, and like it started fading a little bit before that, simply because like I could no longer. I'd started to feel more and more what it felt to be like okay not being drunk,
mm,
like, and feeling what it feels like to like feel good and like healthy and being able to like wake up and train and have energy and sleeping well and like having my testosterone levels up and like started to feel what it feels like to be healthy,
mm,
and that feeling and like fulfillment that I got cumulative from those like initial 2 years of competing and like learning what it feels like to lose competitions and be able to rebound and go to the next competition and like being like, this is just the way the world is, like just like this almost like absurd level of acceptance of everything and only focusing on like what I'm doing and just realizing that nothing really matters, because like the only thing, it only matters if it like hurts other people or like if I make it matter to me, or like there's yeah, there's a lot that doesn't really matter. We put a lot of importance on things that we don't necessarily have to put importance on. And I learned that because of competition, because like the world championship is only that because of the marketing. What is the world championship? It's the same as every other competition. Except like different
mm,
people go to it and it's marketed as like the best in the world are going to come do this thing, but other people just like you and me invented that, and then for some reason we all just started making it important. So like all of this competition and traveling and doing all this stuff and losing and sometimes winning, and then out of a pure numbers game becoming like number one in like two different weight divisions in my age category, like whatever all this stuff was that was happening because of the competition became like this microcosm of life, and I started realizing how much a lot of stuff just doesn't really matter, and learning all these lessons, and then realizing how it feels to be physically healthy with this more resilient mindset. And it's like suddenly it's just like I don't really need to be drunk.
Mm.
because I realize like um um yeah, it's almost like nothing matters, but in a good way. And it's like,
Right.
so I can deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I realized how much I was like causing myself to suffer.
Mm.
And I think that was probably the biggest shift. And then like the other thing is like I'm trying to train in the mornings. I'm like, it's not even worth it to drink because I like
You're
I
just
I
gonna
know what
suffer
it's
more.
yeah, I know what it feels like to train after a good night's of sleep. After a good night of sleep, I'm like, oh, that feels so much better than like even being slightly hungover. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm fine. Like, so it was a gradual sort of fade until like I didn't even realize that I wasn't even really drinking anymore. I just like occasionally the thought would like bleep in my head, be like, oh, I'm kind of stressed from today. I could use a drink, but no, I got to train in the morning. Okay,
Right.
yeah, and suddenly I'm a completely different person, and um, and yeah, that's how it happened. There was no like decision. There was no I'm gonna stop drinking. It was just like I don't need to.
Right.
Yeah,
In some way, it's interesting, right? It's like the environment incentivized that for you, right?
exactly.
Like
Yeah,
you said, that yeah, if training tomorrow morning is a constant, there becomes a point where it's like just drinking is just gonna make it worse.
yeah.
You
You'll
know,
just
like
be
it's
more
just gonna be a
miserable.
net negative.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, when you're in an emotional place where you kind of still need that, a small incentive like that isn't gonna make a big shift overnight, maybe.
yeah.
But like over time, like repeated exposures, and yeah, maybe like
It's the environment and
maybe there's
behavior.
some sense in which like I mean, I know at least for me when I compete and I lose, it's tough, like it's a big thing. Um and I'm like, man, what did I put on all this work, damn, I just ah,
Mhm,
I got caught with this, got caught with that, right?
mhm.
And so I wonder if that also though like was like building your emotional resilience in these like acute blips, in a different axis
Yeah,
that maybe was easier for you to like just be strong with, like
low
it's like
like a lower dose exposure of
yeah, but
loss.
not necessarily lower dose. I mean, probably relative to like some of the stuff. But like that could be quite stressful, right? But
Mhm,
I think it's like there's different intensities of like dosage of like stress, but like there's different things, right? Like
mhm,
when things kind of like activate our insecurities,
mhm,
all of a sudden a little stressor is a big deal.
mhm.
And when things don't activate our insecurities, like maybe with the competitions for you, I would guess that maybe losing didn't activate your insecurities in that way,
Yeah,
and so you can handle it even though you weren't in like a really strong emotional place,
mhm.
but it's still stressful.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
but now you get this like positive adaptive response. Now you went through that, and next week was fine,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. I
And
think
he's
you're
still
right.
training.
Yeah. Whereas if I was like maybe doing something else that was more like re-traumatizing over and
Right,
over.
right.
Whereas like from day one in competition, I just always treated it. I just never losses never really stuck with me. I just never cared from day one. And I have friends who like going to competition for them is like a world bending event every single time. And it's like they're panicking and like anxious, like it's just like a terrible experience and they have to learn how to manage their anxiety and they're terrified of losing. And I'm like, I don't understand that,
Mm,
but um but I think it's because I adapted so much because I just kept doing it over and over and over. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't see that it doesn't have to be this way.
Right.
like,
Again, it's the
yeah,
environment, right?
yeah,
Like for me, I didn't compete until like after a few years of training.
hmm
And it's like, what? And then it kind of feels like I trained a few years for this one event, versus
yeah,
like when we did sumo, like it was like, dude, we just trained 30 minutes the night before. It's like
yeah,
so clearly not that. And
yeah,
it's a very intense sport.
yeah,
And yet it was so not stressful for you, where I get really stressed before jiu-jitsu competitions,
yeah, yeah,
because I'm like, oh, I need to like represent for movement teachers, like
right,
here's a generalist doing a specialist sport, like gotta represent,
yeah,
that feels like a weight, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. But and here's the interesting thing is not to like project onto you or anything,
Yeah.
but is that that's a completely internal thing to you. I would
Right.
never
Right.
imagine that that's going through your head.
Sure.
Like to me, with my own mindset, I'd be like, I don't care if Brand wins or loses,
Sure.
and that's another thing for people who are like competing. Like most people don't even care if you lose.
Right.
Like even at the big highest levels of the sport, how many people actually went to bed thinking about a night that Gordon Ryan beat what's his name at ADCC Worlds? Like who? See, I can't even recall the opponent's name right now. Or sorry, Andre Galvao. Like when
Oh,
Gordon
sure.
beat Andre, how many
Right.
people actually went to bed heartbroken over Andre's loss?
I mean, maybe a lot. I don't know about that
I
one.
mean, maybe, but I mean,
For a night.
maybe,
For a
yeah,
night.
maybe but like, how much does it actually matter? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
And then you
Mm-hmm.
think about yourself, like, how much does it actually matter? How
Yeah.
much people don't actually care about you, and that's kind
Yeah.
of nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, you learn that like once you start losing, it's like that's all in your head. It's all you doing that to yourself.
Mm.
Nobody's doing that to you. Nobody's doing anything to you. Like you've done that all to yourself. And it's like not in that like victim blaming sense of the word, like or of that concept. It's like freeing to realize that you're doing it to yourself. It's like, like you look around, it's like waking up from a dream. It's like nobody's putting this on me, and it's like it kind of gives you a sense of it's like empowering in a way. It's
Yeah.
like okay, so I can really then just make this whatever I want. um and again, not to project that onto you, but like but actually what you say about being a movement teacher, a generalist representing in a specialist sport and stuff, like um like that's a very real thing to you, right? Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
you just like confessed to insecurity to me.
Yeah.
Like that's a
Yeah.
very real thing that goes in
Sure.
your mind, and everybody who goes to compete, I think, has
We've
all of
got.
those types of things. We all have those things that bubble up in the back of our mind a
Yeah.
little bit that we try to push down,
Right. Right.
and like maybe one of yours is like, oh, I'm a movement teacher. Like that might pop up in your brain in a moment of stress,
Yeah.
and it's like that's the unique thing that you have to deal with and
Right.
manage in your head, and
Right.
somebody else is like terrified that their wife is watching them get beat up in front of her, and like somebody else is terrified of like getting highlighted on social media, and somebody else is
Sure.
terrified of what their abusive father is going to say about them.
Right.
Like everybody's got these things that are like I'm not saying this to like minimize anything, because a
Yeah.
lot of these things are actually true things. Like maybe people are in these types of relationships where they like there is an
Sure.
effect that's
Sure.
happening
Sure.
afterwards and
Sure.
stuff.
Sure. But I think your point really stands, that like there is something really beautiful about we call it like a locus of control,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Like what affects are you in control of what happens to you,
yeah,
right? If you believe that, that's an internal locus of control. You believe you have the control. Or you could believe you don't have control. The world controls what happens to you, and god damn it, the
but then you're
star
just a victim all
alignment.
the time. Yeah,
Yeah. And it's I would see that kind of as a victim mentality, right?
yeah, yeah.
Like if you don't have that like autonomy, you don't have that control, like um yeah, you can't, that sucks,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Versus when you have the ability to, when you recognize that those things are all in your perception,
Yeah.
you now have the control to change them.
Yeah.
Right.
When you realize what is in your perception, when you realize what you can control and what you can't control, yeah, exactly. Then you're like, okay, here's what I can actually do then,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's where like the Stoicism started to play like a very big role. It was like the main thread throughout all of this competition experience because one of the first things I did, which I talk about in my recent video about how Jiu-Jitsu actually saved my life, is kind of this whole story of the drinking and stuff, and it touches very, very briefly and very broadly on these topics that we're talking about, which um, and one of them is that like one of the mornings after my wife and I separated, I just remember finally opening Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and just every day I would read a passage from it. I was like, that's the easiest way to read a book. I don't want to read this whole thing, so I'm just going to keep it on my desk and read a passage every day. And then by this point, I've now read it like 5 times, but it's all those same principles that became like doing the competitions all the time was like it was a direct reflection of what I was reading in this book. I'm like, oh, this is that like this is life. This is how like that's why I keep saying like competition is like a microcosm of life for me now
Mm.
because like everything you're learning by it's just a dense like version of life. Really seeing like what it is you actually control and
Mm.
like what you're capable of. Jiu-jitsu is such a competition is such like a juxtaposition too because you're trying to control somebody in an environment where you're trying to also learn what things you can't control.
Mm.
It's like
Mm.
letting go of the outcome while
Mm.
also trying to win. Like all of these things are just like this learning this ability to hold two completely opposite things at the same time. Trying to win without caring about the outcome, trying to control somebody while letting go of the control. Like these two things fighting each other constantly.
I love that so much.
Yeah. And like you become so acutely aware of it because if you're faced with it constantly and you realize that that's exactly what life is like. You're constantly trying to like maybe at your job you're trying to get a promotion but you're not in control if they promote you or not. You're right? How do you navigate that? You're trying to raise your kid, but he's going out and smoking weed and getting in trouble every day, and you're trying to like make sure he gets a scholarship and doesn't get kicked off the football team. I don't know, whatever life issues normal people go through. That's two opposite things, and you don't actually control him, but you're trying to like control this outcome, and like everything is just like and what it really boils down to is just your intention and your actions, and that's like like what that at least taught me was that everything is just about what you're intending to do and like thinking about what you can do and then just letting everything else play out as it must. And like because my efforts to control a lot of things just lead to more stress. My efforts um to not accept winning or to not accept losing only serves um to just hurt me. It
Mm.
does nothing else. So learning how to like hold two juxtaposed ideas at the same time, I think is like the essence of competing, which is like the essence
Mm.
of life
Mm.
and like
Mm.
navigating that. I don't know. That was kind
Yeah,
of the biggest thing I sort of learned and all that, but yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Um yeah. And that's where all these tattoos came from too.
Do you want to like talk about some of the tattoos? Like,
Yeah, most of these are like it's like kind of patchwork stuff that I got after like competitions and stuff traveling around the world. I've got like acquiescence right here. Um, the art of acquiescence they talk about in Stoic philosophy, which is like sort of radical acceptance of external events, acquiescing to things that happen. My first one was Memento Mori, along with Memento Vivere, which is remember you'll die, remember to live. It's like the same sort of concept. I got Logos on my arm, which is about the nature of all things. This is all like Stoicism philosophy stuff, but
do
got them
you
everywhere.
So I've thought about getting tattoos for
Yeah.
a long time, and my thought is like, if I pick something and I like really stick with it, like
Mhm.
I don't want to get something and then like change my mind 2 years later, right? So I think it's like if I pick something really good and then I stuck with it and I really like, a long time later, that's like a good thing,
Mhm.
then maybe I should do it. And so there's a lot of like some of the tattoos that I think about are like Stoicism things,
Mhm.
um, particularly Ryan Holiday books.
Mhm.
I really love Ryan Holiday's books. Um, do you find that these tattoos really remind you of these things on a daily basis? Like, do you look at them and then it's like, yes, memento mori, or like, did the process of getting them tattooed, like, was that really meaningful? Like,
Both. So, the process of getting them was super meaningful because it was like a concept that was like really important to me at the time, whatever the tattoo happened to be. And then the second thing is like every once in a while when I'm like kind of down or like stressed out about something or whatever, I'm like, maybe the answer is tattooed here. Like every once in a while I'll be in the shower like contemplating life and I'll just look down at my arms and I'll be like, remember you idiot, you tattooed this stuff on you? Why don't you look at it? And then I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. And like they actually are like reminders to me about stuff. But it's not like, yeah, at a certain point you can only look at something so many times before you just like forget it's even there, you know.
Sure, sure.
But it's kind of both, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, are you gonna get one?
It's been a long thought,
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you've read Meditations, right?
I haven't finished it.
Okay. But you read parts of it, yeah.
Yeah.
And you read the Ryan Holiday books. I actually haven't read the Ryan Holiday
Very
books, but
good. He's a
okay.
really good author.
Yeah.
You'd like them.
Cool. I'll check them out.
He's becoming quite prolific, actually.
Yeah, he's
He's
very popular right now. Yeah.
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 Well, like he's putting out a lot of books too.
Yeah, yeah.
They're like pretty small, but like good, like wisdom. Why don't you take me back to who you were in middle school?
In middle school.
Yeah.
Okay.
What
Middle
was life
school.
like?
Oh, interesting.
Who
Okay.
was Josh
Okay.
Beam in middle school?
In like fifth grade. So
Yeah.
middle school in Texas where I grew up was fifth and sixth grade. So I grew up in New Mexico until I was like 10 and then moved to Texas and started fifth grade in Texas. I was a very short kid. I was like probably 5 foot. I was very temperamental and goofy. I had a temper. I would get mad really, really easily.
Hmm.
Um, and I was also super hyperactive, but I was also like shy around new people. I was not necessarily athletic or anything. I was into like drawing. In fifth grade, I started orchestra. I played the violin. I still play the violin technically. Like I can
Nice.
still play it. Yeah. I played violin all the way throughout high school,
Nice.
And I liked emo punk music and like I was more kind of like an artsy, emotional kid in fifth grade.
So wild.
Yeah, it was very opposite. Um, I got in one fight and my sister fought him.
Wait, what?
I think there's this kid named Hale. Oh, Hale Ball. I think we're homies now, probably. Um, but I don't remember what happened. But he was like mean to me about something. Or actually, I think we were playing Foursquare and we had an argument.
Uh-huh.
And we like decided to meet after school to like fight.
Yeah.
And I remember him walking up to me, and his chest is at like my eye level, I think, or something. And we were about to fight, and I think he kind of pushes me, or maybe punches me softly or something,
Uh-huh.
and I just take off running. And my older sister's there, so I have 3 siblings. I have an older sister, a younger brother.
Uh-huh.
and my older sister, I think, hit him with a stick, and then started spraying her perfume in his face. So she won the fight for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good sister.
Yeah. I think she was in like 6th grade. Yeah, she won the fight for
She
me.
got him with the perfume.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. I think threw a stick at him and then perfumed him in the face. Uh, and yeah, that's why I was in middle school. And then yeah, just like socially awkward, not very good at sports. I played I was on the basketball team by accident, I think, because like they had tryouts, and like it was I had showed up for tryouts, and it was down between me and this other guy who's really bad. I like showed up to the basketball tryouts like in Puma running shoes, like I'm like 5'2", like I don't belong there.
Yeah.
Oh, this was in 7th grade, uh, and and I remember I think one of the very few games I played, I like ran out onto the court, and there was too many people on the court for our team. And I think I made a layup, and my coach called me back out. He's like, come back out. I like scored, but there was like too many people on the court, I think. I don't even remember. And then I played football a little bit. I was really bad. I was like a tailback, I think.
Nice.
And yeah, anyway, so not very athletic, very like into like music and art and like all that kind of stuff. Very emotional little child. And and then at a certain point, I started experiencing like a lot of stress and anxiety. Um, not totally sure all of the different reasons, but different, like, probably family stuff and things that we don't necessarily need to go into detail for, but rather like suffice it to say that like yeah, probably just like relational trauma type stuff that started creating a lot of anxiety, and then I started like using drugs, abusing like prescription pills. I would drink. There was uh yes, I got into several really bad situations in my teenage years related to like alcohol and drugs, and like drove drunk one night, like almost crashed my car.
Oh wow.
Got kicked out of a house party, like almost got beat up. Just all kinds of yeah stuff related to that. So I came out of my teenage years um uh kind of just like just an anxious mess, mad at the world, and I sort of overcorrected and became the opposite way, which was just like very mean to everybody, and like fuck you, I don't care, and like all this kind of stuff. And instead of going to college, I decided to join the army, um, just because I thought it'd be cool to join the army. um, Specifically because I thought there was this aspect of like um, I think I had this sense of like needing a purpose, probably, and like being able to like do something that was like not ordinary, and like yeah, I think it came from like this deep-seated sense of like needing a purpose, sort of, probably, which actually I haven't even realized that until I've told you right now. Because usually when people ask me that, I just kind of go with this tongue-in-cheek answer of like I thought it would be cool to do it, but I think it came from like wanting to do something extraordinary, in a way, like something not normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so I got in, did basic training, went to AIT, and then after AIT, which is the advanced individual training, went to airborne school in Fort Benning, Georgia, learned to jump out of planes, which is terrifying. And then in 2012, got sent to Afghanistan.
Can we talk about the
About
jumping out of
the
planes?
being a paratrooper, yeah. Oh man, so people don't understand. It's not skydiving. So when you think about jumping out of a plane, typically you think about you have a parachute on your back, and you like walk up to the door and you jump out and you pull your parachute and you float.
And it's fun.
And yeah, and you go really fast for a while.
You pull the parachute and then you like
Yeah, and you kind of
like
swing
zoom
back.
around where you
Yeah,
want.
yeah, and then you like flare the parachute and you land nicely on your feet.
You have
Skydive
the
off.
nice little like jog to walk.
Yeah.
And then yeah.
And then
you're
go
good.
eat lunch. Being a paratrooper is a very different thing. A bunch of soldiers are jammed inside of an airplane, sitting like on top of each other, like right next to each other. You've got a 70-pound rucksack tied between your legs. You have a rifle strapped to your side. Um, you have um, you don't always jump with the rucksack and the weapon and everything, but oftentimes you do these like jumps with your equipment. And you're very low in the air. I forget the exact height you're at. It's like not very high at all. And you,
Before we were saying like
yeah,
1,200 feet, 600
I don't,
feet, something
some
low.
super low amount of
Yeah.
feet in the air. Yeah, you're not that high up. um, and they actually drop vehicles out of the planes. Like
Wow.
that's how high you are. It's like enough to where you can like safely drop a vehicle out of the plane.
Can you not drop a vehicle? I mean, I don't know anything about this. Can you not drop a vehicle from too much
I mean, you
altitude
probably
or?
could. I imagine it's kind of hard to do that accurate. I really don't know. I have no idea,
Oh,
but like,
it's an accuracy issue.
I get maybe I'm making that up probably, but
I have
like,
no
I
idea.
just think it would be crazy to drop a Humvee out of a plane at like 10,000 feet or something. Maybe they do. I don't know. They probably do. They probably do. But I don't know why that's my example. But we're pretty low, um, and the way that it works is you have this yellow cord attached to your parachute. It's called a static line, and that thing is responsible for pulling your parachute out. You don't deploy your own parachute. So what you do is you're sitting in the plane, and like I forget all the signals. This is back in like from 2011 to 2014, but you're sitting in the plane, and the jump master, the guy at the front of the plane by this door that he's about to open for you all to jump out, he gives you the signal to like stand up, hook up, which means take this hook that's attached to that static line on your parachute, hook it to like a metal cable that runs the length of the fuselage of the plane, because you guys are all going to stand up and hold that static line that's attached to that cord and walk down the side of the plane, hand that static line off to the jump master, turn and jump out the door. And that static line is going to open your parachute for you, hopefully, and then you'll float chaotically down to the ground. um, and there's a whole lot of things that have to go right.
Sorry, can you?
Yeah,
Yeah, like there's more because you're
there's more to
telling me
that.
more.
Yeah, there's a whole lot that has to go right during this situation. So one thing you have to do is you have to hand off the static line, and the jump master has to make sure that they collect it appropriately, because the risk there is that the static line drops and the next person jumps out and your static line wraps around them and like decapitates them or like pulls their arm off or something. So that's like the first like real danger that you encounter. The next thing that happens is you jump out of the door. It's not coordinated at all. They tell you to like jump 6 inches up and 6 inches out. um, all this information, by the way, is from the time period of 2011 to 2014, so keep that in mind. There's probably like changes in the way people do stuff, and
Much improved safety protocols.
who knows? I mean, I would guess not. They've been doing this the same way since like the 60s or so. I don't even know. The 40s, 20s. I don't know when they started their war. Some they've been using the same equipment for decades.
Wow.
But so you jump out, and when you jump out, you're already just like chaotically flipping through the wind. Like that, it's not a controlled jump out of the plane. You like jump out and you're immediately hit by like all the wind that's like rushing by the door, because you jump out like straight. Like you're not like cannonballing out of the plane. You're just kind of like stepping out. You're supposed to be jumping out, but you're effectively just like stepping off the door, and suddenly you're just getting like swept into the wind. And like the amount of backflips I've done as I'm just like falling chaotically with a 70-pound rucksack, like off it, like out of the jump door. And then you're like counting to 4 or 6, depending on your parachute. There's at the time we had two different types of parachutes. One of the parachutes you counted to 4, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000 for your main parachute to open. You're like, oh, thank God. Because like they're like, sometimes it doesn't deploy. I'm like, it doesn't? I'm like, I'm like, why? Because maybe the person who packed your parachute did it wrong, or some other thing went wrong, and like you don't have any control over that. You don't even rig your own parachute. Like somebody dresses you up in your parachute, and you're like, okay, and like you're not putting that thing on yourself. It's like this whole harness system. You have like these guys who are qualified to like inspect the parachute, like put it on for you and check all the points of safety, and um, and like hopefully they did it right because they just did it for like 300 people, like all at the same time, and you're like,
Sure.
ooh, this is making me nervous. Um, it's not like I'm qualified to do it either, but so you jump out, you count to 4, the thing opens, and then you have a reserve parachute on, like a secondary parachute strapped on your belly, and it's like if that thing doesn't deploy, then you're supposed to pull the handle on your reserve parachute, and then probably float like a like from your belly, I guess, down to the ground. This thing is like, I actually don't know what would happen. Maybe it probably goes straight up. I don't know how you would be hanging if your reserve was open, but it's probably very chaotic. I don't know. And then the problem is these parachutes are huge. So the parachutes we were using at the time, again, I don't know which ones they're using now, but you can't control it. So you're trying to like pull the lines, I forget the risers, with these handles to like go left or go right, but you pull it and the parachute kind of takes like several seconds to kind of tilt that way a little bit, and then eventually you sort of start swinging that way, but by the time you start shifting directions, you're like, no, now I need to go the other way. So now you're like trying to shift the other way, you're like,
Now the wind changes.
yeah, the wind changes and now you're going backwards. And probably like at least like 5, 6 times I ended up enveloped in somebody else's parachute or bouncing on top of a parachute, like several times just getting completely wrapped in somebody else's parachute. You kind of go in there and you kind of start falling for a second, and then you like get like launched back out of it, and suddenly you're like, it's like Mario or something, like coming out of a cloud. You're just so and then you're like running into somebody, and like it's just chaotic. Yes. And then on the descent, people think when you're jumping out with a parachute that you're just going to like land on your feet, but you can't control the descent. I don't know how fast you're going in ground speed as you're approaching the ground. It's got to be like at least 20 miles an hour that you're approaching the ground.
Wow.
And they tell you, and you're not totally in control of the direction that you approach the ground at. Like you kind of are. You can say like, okay, I want to try to land on my right side, so I'm going to pull these risers or whatever. You sort of slip into the direction there's like a protocol for the way that you pull the risers and all this kind of stuff, but it doesn't really work the way you intend it to. And suddenly you're like just like speeding towards the ground at like 20 miles an hour ground speed or whatever, with your feet and knees together, and you sort of assume this banana position because you're not going to land on your feet. You're going to try to roll like you're doing parkour. That's how you land in these parachutes. And like the number of people who like broke their ankles or legs or like got concussions or landed in trees, like they're always like fishing people out of trees on these practice jumps. It's just the most chaotic, like disorganized thing. You're just like launching, I don't know how many people out of the plane at the same time, but it's just this like chaotic cloud of soldiers sort of floating down and bumping into each other, and then eventually like hitting the ground, and some of them are just severely injured. And it's like, that's not fun at all. And like, yeah, not fun, not a good time. Yeah, luckily I never got like injured, but there was some pretty bad stories. Like one female soldier at the time got decapitated. Yeah. Yeah, it's insane. I forget. It was in the news at the time. I don't know what it was that wrapped around her neck when she jumped out, but it's just it's hard not to laugh at the absurdity. Like it's a tragic event, but
Yeah.
it's like kind of flabbergasting that that's a
Right.
risk of jumping
Yeah.
out of the plane, is that you're facing being decapitated.
Yeah.
Like what on earth?
Wild.
Yeah, and like obviously like, you do things right, things normally go to plan, and like it's kind of a numbers game at a certain point. If you're doing a risky thing, like somebody's bound to get hurt, but it just seemed like it was happening all the time. Like, oh, okay, that guy broke his leg this time. Oh, there's 4 people in the trees. Like, oh fuck, I have a concussion.
And I just before we like keep going, I do want to like say like, from my little bit of experience skydiving, where I've gone at like 12,000 feet and like 15,000 feet, where also with an instructor, tied to my back that like is a professional, and there's there to like, make sure things go right. But you have so much time there, you know, and so it's like, okay, well,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
always know in your head, like, okay, if the main parachute doesn't open, it's like, dude, we still got another like minute before we're even supposed to open, try to open this next one,
yeah,
So I
yeah.
imagine for you, like,
Yeah.
you know, those 4 seconds, you're backflipping through the air. Sometimes you got this 70-pound thing, and like you don't have another minute, you know, if that thing doesn't open, to like, yeah, let's figure out how to do the reserve and like cut away the first thing, you know, whatever's left of it.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, yeah, we're not even thinking about cutting away anything. You know, you don't have anything to cut away anything. But yeah, and you're like so close to the ground too that like how much time do you even realistically have to open your reserve? You
yeah,
don't have that much time before you would like
yeah.
realistically hit the ground. I remember they dropped a Humvee out of a plane once and the parachute didn't open. It was in the ground and like on the ground in seconds.
Oh my
And
god.
it just exploded.
Oh
Like
my
it hit
god.
the drop zone and just I'm like, oh, that went wrong. How much was that Humvee? People in the army are very there's a subgroup who are very like hua, as they say. Like
What's that mean?
so like in the Marines they say like oorah. I think in like the Navy they say hooyah. And then in the army it's hua. And like it's just like a way you respond to anything like who was sorry. Like it's like it can mean yes, it can be no, it can mean I'm in pain, it can mean it's an all-encompassing word for any situation.
Like os.
Yeah, yeah, like os, yeah, for jujitsu, and like it's also a word for people who are like fit the cliche. Like so, there people are just like too overboard, too like
Mm.
tough guy, too um, like
You say jump, I say how high.
yeah, but like also just like assholes. Yeah, a
Mm.
lot of assholes in the army.
Mm.
Yeah, um, but those are going to be the people who care about if I got the
Better get
number
it right.
wrong. Yeah, so we better get it right, or we're gonna get comments. But
And we don't care
yeah,
because it doesn't
yeah,
matter.
yeah, um, yeah. So it's just, and some people loved it for some reason. Some people like seemed happy to be jumping, but it was just terrifying experience for me every time because to me the experience was that I might die today.
Yeah.
I'm like, and it probably wouldn't happen. Like the amount of actual deaths from jumping are very low. Like one girl got decapitated tragically. Like that's still just that's just wild that that happened. Sorry about laughing. Like it's more of a
Yeah, but
laugh of
it's just,
absurdity. Yeah.
yeah.
So to me, it was like, oh, is something catastrophic going to happen today? Basically, that was the experience of like being a paratrooper. Like once I saw what it
And you
really
had to just
was.
do that, you know? It's just like you gotta roll those dice. You gotta just keep rolling them.
Yeah, you're rolling the dice basically. It seems like I remember my last jump, and it's not like a super huge number of jumps we're doing anyway. I got to look at my jump sheet, but it was like within the order of magnitude of a few dozen jumps, rather than like you're not doing like 200 jumps over your career or some crazy number like that. Some
Okay.
people are, but
Yeah.
it's a relatively small number
Oh, interesting.
of like these practice jumps because you have to do them every so
Oh,
often in order to
okay.
remain airborne
Right,
qualified.
right,
So you
right.
do like your initial, I think it was like 5 jumps in airborne school. So you go through all this training and then jump out of a plane 5 times at night with your equipment, without your equipment, all this kind of stuff. And then you have to like jump every so often like I was on Fort Bragg for most of that time, and you have to jump every so often. So it's like within the order of magnitude of dozens, not
Mm,
hundreds of
mm,
jumps, right?
mm.
Um, and uh, so that was going on when I was back on, back at home on post, and then so that was that sort of a stressful experience, and then the other experience was then being deployed. Like I got deployed pretty fast, like as soon as I got to my unit in 2012, because Operation Enduring Freedom was going on. We got deployed to what's called RC East. We were in Eastern Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
There's a zone of like they separated Afghanistan into different zones, like RC East, RC West. I assume there was, and like, but we're in Ghazni province. Is Ghazni the province? I think. Yeah, Ghazni province in Makor district, and this is right next to the Pakistan border. And this is where like all of the fighting is happening. So we're in
Mm.
like we're like in it. Like this is where
Mm.
everything's going down. Um,
This is front lines.
yeah, this is yeah. I'm not sure exactly like historically accurately what because I think front lines could be like a term of art. I'm not sure exactly what
Okay.
like how many people are there compared to other areas at the
Okay, sure,
time, and like I
sure.
don't know all the
But
exact
there's
numbers and
real
stuff.
combat going on
This is combat
all the
area.
time.
Yeah. This is like we're going over there because there's combat happening, right? So your experience is like when we deployed to Afghanistan, we flew through a few different countries. I think we got to like Kyrgyzstan first, and then from Kyrgyzstan was the moment we all got into a C-17 to fly into. Were we in a C-17? Whatever, I don't know. I'm probably gonna use a lot of the.
I mean, it's been like over a decade.
It's been over a
So
decade since since all this happened. So this is all going by glimpses of memories at this point. But so we're on a C-17 headed into Afghanistan at night. Shut all the lights off. Red lights come on inside the plane. We're over um, Fob. Oh no, we're going to Bagram Air Base. It's like this. It's basically a city. They had this huge base, Bagram Air Base, which is a military base, but it's essentially like a city. Like
wow.
yeah, because we've been there so long by this point that like this thing turned into a city, and the way we're entering, did we land in Bagram first? Wherever we landed, the our plane starts corkscrewing down to avoid rockets. Because that's just the protocol. I don't know if anybody actually shot rockets at us, but that's how you land in Afghanistan at the time. Is
Wow.
you take the plane, you turn all the lights off, turn on the red lights, and then just corkscrew down so that they'll have a harder time shooting rockets at you. And that's how you
Fucking
that's how
crazy.
we land in Afghanistan. But we're not even in it yet. Now we're now we're on Bagram, wherever we were at the time, and then we're like waiting to go to our forward operating base, which would be Fob Warrior, which was in RC East, and that's our second stop. But while we're on Bagram, we already start getting mortars and rockets hitting. Sort of Bagram's so big that like the odds of you actually getting hit by a rocket or a mortar is pretty low. That's probably going to hit the outskirts of the base and stuff, and this kind of thing. But now you're actively hearing mortars and rockets for the first time starting to like hit your base. You're like, all right, we're here. There's like actual Taliban shooting rockets at
Wow.
us,
Wow.
and it's like you're probably fine, but now there's
But
rockets.
now you're constantly on edge because you could explode at any time.
Yeah, like the odds on this huge base of you getting
Sure.
hit by anything is low, but it's like
But
you went from no
there's a
rockets to
huge
rockets.
yeah. This is a qualitative shift.
Yeah, it's yes.
like,
There's a change.
like I'm not like we could get hit by a rocket right now,
Yeah.
but like it's not in
Right,
I
right,
never have thought about it, you know.
right. Exactly, exactly. Um, yeah, and now you're like, okay, now there's rockets, okay, and every once in a while you hear some gunfire, but it's still not like there yet. And like on this air base too, you've got like a full gym. Like they've got a full DFAC, so a dining facility. They've got like good food too. They've got like steak and lobster sometimes, and
Nice.
it's a city that's getting
Wow.
shot on the outskirts by rockets sometimes, and and then but from there we take a Chinook, I think, to Fob Warrior. That's our next stop, which is in RC East. And a Chinook is like this huge, like I think it's a dual prop helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna mess so much shit up. But like I remember looking out the back door of the Chinook is open, um, like the back ramp or whatever. I'm looking out and I see the most beautiful mountains I've ever seen in my life because we're flying through Afghanistan now, and I'm
Mm.
like, oh, this place is amazing.
Mm.
And I'm just like looking out the back, and we land at Fob Warrior, which was like our second stop. Um, that's where our company's going because our individual teams are going to be sent out to different combat outposts around the area. So you have this like central location, which is a smaller base. But now we're at this point where sometimes these rockets are heading close to us and we have to run to bunkers.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's gone from rockets on the outskirts, rockets sometimes forcing us to go to bunkers, and artillery shooting back at them,
Mm.
right, from this base. So now
Mm.
it's starting to get a little bit more real. You have to run into these concrete bunkers. They're in the shape of U's, and they just kind of put them together, and you run into them, and sometimes the rockets hit them, but you're fine. And like,
They're deep underground, or
no, they're on the ground. They're surface level. They're
I
just
guess how
thick
thick are
concrete.
they?
I
That
get they must be really thick. Yeah, like super thick walls. Like the mortars don't bust them open.
well,
Yeah. but the next stop is Kotmakor, which so the Afghan National Army had a base out in this city called Makor, um, and our all of our missions were joint with the Afghan National Army at the time. So everything we were doing, we also had Afghan National Army soldiers with us because they're supposed to take back their own country. Okay. These are the same guys walking around with their fingers on the trigger and their barrels pointed in there. So, like there was negligent discharges like every day from Afghan National Army soldiers. Like these guys are just dumb. Like they're not taking back their country. We're taking back their country. Not like Taliban took back the country. We're not doing anything. We're just going there and walking around getting shot at. But we're on this combat outpost. The way we get there, I think we were in a Black Hawk this time, maybe were we or another? We must have been in a Black Hawk. I can't even remember. But now it's like a smaller helicopter, and like this time we have to be worried about Taliban shooting at our helicopter. Now it's getting even more real.
This is still kind of on like on your first trip.
This
Like
is
you're
I'm
just
still I
getting
just
there.
got to Afghanistan. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we stopped at the big base. We go to a
You're
smaller
just
base.
they're just directly going into more danger.
Yes, yeah, because we're getting sent out to now the actual fighting where everybody's at. And we land. Our Black Hawk lands. I run out of the Black Hawk, and immediately a mortar hits our combat outpost. Immediately, like next to us. Like it's not even like it went from like hitting the outskirts of Bagram Air Base to like sometimes hitting the internals of Fob Warrior to landing like basically like within eyesight. Like and we immediately take cover. Like they must have seen the helicopter come in and then now they shoot something at us and like
Mm-hmm.
we're like take cover and we're like I'm like diving on the ground and a mortar hits. I'm like, where the fuck am I? Like, this is my welcome to Kotmakor is a mortar hitting like right as we land, and then they're like, yep, that's how it goes. And so we get to we're living in tents, these big tents, probably the size of this hotel room, and you've got like cots in there, so you're sleeping on like a bunk bed cot. It's not like a mattress; it's just like a fabric cot type of situation. And you have like we could receive Amazon deliveries there. It's pretty funny what they got set up. They had like an internet cafe on this combat outpost. They had a barber come in. They would do laundry. Like they have all. It's so weird because you're like in war on this like very small. I should distinguish this combat outpost between like another type of combat outpost. So our combat outpost was inside of a small Afghan National Army base, which has like mud walls around it. So this combat outpost, it wasn't big enough to be classified as a forward operating base, which would be like the next biggest thing. But there's some types of combat outposts where it's literally just like some plywood walls and like you could get shot at any time. But we had like what were the big HESCO barriers? What were they? I don't even remember at this, but it was a little more built out because it had been there for a while now. Like I think the Polish army had even been there at some point. It started to get a little more built out, but it was still very small, and it's in and it's like in a in an enemy city. Like it's right there in Makor, where you walk out and you can encounter like Taliban there, right? They're not going to be that close to the cop necessarily, but you walk out, you're in it now. Like yeah, and a lot of the times we would just get woken up by mortars. So you hear, and everybody starts yelling. And then you run to the concrete bunkers. There's two of them in Kotmakor, two of these concrete bunkers in our immediate vicinity. There's probably more on like the ANA side and stuff. But you run inside these bunkers, and the mortars are hitting you. Like they're hitting the bunkers. They're hitting directly inside the base. Like people are getting like maimed or injured. Usually the Afghan National Army are getting blown up by these mortars. I think only one guy at the time I knew, one soldier got hit by one, and he had to get medevaced because he was kind of standing, I think, next to the entrance of the bunker, and the mortar exploded right next to us, and he had to get medevaced out. but yeah, there's plenty of times we're just in these bunkers with the mortars hitting, and one went through we had a military police tent right next to our tent. One went right through their tent, and I have a photo of it on that encrypted drive. Um, yeah, just mortar went through their tent. Like they weren't in there at the time.
Mm.
They were out doing something. Um, and then we would go out on patrols every once in a while like a multi-day mission, which were like much larger operations. But these patrols were essentially a bunch of us. I don't know the number of people, like a company's worth of people or whatever. I don't know how many people that is. Like a squad is like, what is it, like a handful of people, and then you have a platoon, which is like a few squads. Like there's actual uh like in the SOP, so like the standing operating procedures, there's actual like numbers for like what would be in like an infantry squad, what would be in a platoon. And so like I think a platoon is like 4 squads, and then you have like a number of platoons that make up a company, and a squad, what is it, like 4 or 5 people or something. So the order of magnitude is relatively small, but it's still, I don't know. And what they basically do is open the big gates of the Afghan National Army base, and we walk out from our combat outpost out of the gates, and then just start walking. And we just walk off the base.
Through an open, like uncovered desert.
Yeah, it's like we walk into a city kind of, but it's these like mud buildings, this like street with like trash everywhere, the stray dogs following you, barking, like walking alongside of you. Suddenly you're just like walking around in Afghanistan. Like you no longer have like whatever little protection like the cop offered, like the mud walls that you were inside. You're just like in it now, and like you kind of pass the city in like
And
a
hold
few
on,
minutes.
you're 18 at the time?
18, 19, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And now you're like you walk out, and like the city sort of like disappears after a few minutes, and now you're just looking out on farmland. Yeah, for like miles and miles. So Afghanistan, the area we were in is just like these mud farms. It's these dirt farms. So we passed the winter, like there was no more snow or anything. Like at a certain point it had been snowing, it was like muddy and everything. But now everything's this like moon dust. Most of it is like it's like moon dust. It's this really like fine sand that just gets over everything. And then like these farms are this like hard cracked dirt just for like miles.
Mm.
Um, and so like it's very flat. Every once in a while there's like these little clusters of these mud buildings that the people in Afghanistan live in, and they're surrounded by these mud walls. They call them kalats. It's
Mhm.
like a mud walled compound, basically. That's how they have their houses, and like it's mostly farmers. And like there's trees, patches of trees every once in a while. There's these wadis. It's basically these dry riverbeds, and those are all over the place. It's like really deep sand, kind of like a beach. It almost feels like it's very hard to walk through. But there's a story in one of those wadis if we get to it. But that's kind of what the area looks like. And there's so I'm trying to remember which one was my first firefight. First firefight. It started when we got to someone's house, and I'm in the walls of this compound, and I suddenly remember hearing like these shots being fired outside. And so all of this Afghan farmland is full of these grape fields, which are just these series of ditches. It's hard to explain what it looks like, but
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, just this like ditches like this.
like a winery sort of.
Yeah, it's like dug into the
Yeah,
ground, so you can like
yeah.
go into it. And at the time, there's no trees growing or anything, or any grapes growing. It's just like mud hills. So
Mm-hmm.
you have like built-in cover throughout the farmland, which is kind of
Mm.
cool. So you
Ah.
can go into those ditches basically. It's like trenches almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm I run out into one of these ditches, and we start just returning fire in this like direction, just a direction. I don't see anybody, but we're being shot at. We know where the fire is coming from, and we just have to like shoot that way at these people that are shooting at us. And I remember looking to my left, and like the bullets are hitting the ditch like right in front of me. Like I see the sand popping up. I'm like, like this is ridiculous. This is my first time. Like you start to hear like the different sounds of the bullets too for the first time. Some of them are kind of like this circus whistle type of thing. It's like it sounds goofy. It's like
Mm.
that's a like
Mm.
you don't it doesn't occur to you that that's necessarily a bullet flying over your head. The first time I heard like the cracks of bullets overhead too, it's like the bullet breaking the sound barrier. It just sounds like a kind of like a firecracker, like a cap gun or something, or like electricity. Some like weird sound. You don't realize that these are bullets flying overhead. It doesn't feel or sound dangerous. I mean, we hear the gunshots, but like the sound of these bullets is like weird, and they're like popping off the dirt in front of you, and it's like these tiny little splashes of sand, and like how dangerous it is doesn't map to the sound and like
Mm.
the little
The
splashes of
sand
dirt.
popping up.
Yeah,
Mm.
but these are like 7.62 millimeter rounds from AK-47s or like machine guns, uh, like being fired at you, right? So and I remember looking over and we have a sniper with us, and he's just fully on top of like the um the dirt mound, like his head is out and everything. I'm like down here, like trying, like seeing the bullets pop off the dirt in front, like getting cover, and then he pops his head up, fully up, and just starts aiming down his sights. um, and and just like returning fire, and then I like slowly kind of like peek up and like start returning fire too, and like, but that's the first firefight. I don't think anything happened to anybody on that one. But we get into more and more of these firefights. Like the more they're called ticks, troops in contact is
Mm.
the term for those. So we're getting these ticks all the time, and the sort of way that these go down most of the time is that you're with your unit out there, and whenever you get into actual trouble, then you call in air support, and they'll come with like I don't know what all the standard operating procedures are, but we have like a guy with us, I think, called a JTAC. He's a Air Force guy, and his job is to like call in some kind of air support to come like help us, and that might be like a helicopter with a gun pointed out of it, like those Apache um, uh, attack helicopters or whatever. I don't know what they got up there. And then, or these planes dropping these J dams. I just remember we dropped one J dam on some guys, which is like this huge bomb essentially that comes out of this plane. I don't know exactly what it is. Um, but that's kind of how we're operating. We're basically like walking out into enemy territory, essentially to do like civil affairs operations. So meeting with tribal leaders in these villages to just like talk to tribal leaders to make friends with them, or to like tell them that we're going to build a well for their little city
Mm.
or whatever, or to I don't know what we're doing out there. A lot of these civil affairs operations, the idea is to win the hearts and minds of the local populace,
Mm-hmm.
build like do these different projects and stuff. But what we're really doing is just walking out, waiting to get shot at, is what it felt like. Like in my mind, that's what we're doing. The mission is
Mm.
something different, but
Mm.
and I'm not really exactly privy to everything that's going on. I'm just like a private first class at the time. I'm just there with a gun. Like, I'm not really important. Um, yeah, I'm just yeah. That was kind of the biggest thing, was I was just kind of there. It was kind of just this pervasive feeling that I'm just kind of there waiting to maybe die at a certain point. Like I don't know what we're doing there. This doesn't seem like it's going very well. Like some guy dies, some guy replaces him, some guy gets arrested and tried in like an Afghan court and he gets released, and like there's nothing, no like progress being made, and I don't even know what progress would be like at that point. It's basically like I'm just trying to just not get shot and make sure that like I'm doing my job. Um, and one of there are a few like really crazy um, like ticks we got in. So one of them that I remember very well was when we had to call in um, a lot of support for this one. So we had taken over one of these calots, these mud-walled compounds. We basically just went there and just told the guy living there, we're like, we're out here, we're out on a multi-day mission by this point. My pee's turning brown. We don't have food.
Wow.
I had brought like, because I told you we can order Amazon packages somehow to these addresses, and like a Black Hawk with like Amazon packages will land on our cop and like deliver them to us, and we have these like little boxes where we like can receive care packages and like put them in there. And it's kind of absurd, like the environment we're in, and then we still have like an APO address to receive like Amazon packages, which is ridiculous. Um, we have internet access on our like yeah, it's so weird. And so I had 5-hour energies with me. It was the point I was making.
No way.
Yeah.
No
So I'm just like
way.
surviving off of like 5-hour energies and chewing tobacco.
Dude, that's so funny because like probably right around the same time, I'm using those and like monsters
Yeah.
to like study biochemistry, in school. And
Yeah.
I like would imagine, like I always would imagine like, oh, in the military, like, they're just gonna use some like better stuff, like there's just a higher grade of stuff that you would use like if it really matters and your life's on the line.
Hmm. It's 5-hour energy, bro.
So-
Even funnier is this is the OG thing. They had this tiny things called Rippets. I think that was the name. Was that the name? It's these tiny energy drinks that were like crack. They were just energy drinks, but they were like super. I don't even remember the caffeine content, but I just remember Rippets being this huge thing over there. It's just when people hear the term military quality, they think it's high quality. Military quality to military people means very low quality. Military quality is a joke. Like that should not be a standard for anything. Military quality is something falling apart from the 80s. Like yeah. I bought like my own like magazine pouches and stuff. I got them shipped over to me. Like I had because like the stuff they issue you at the time was not that great. It was kind of falling apart sometimes. Like we had
Wow.
these like magazine pouches that were supposed to like button and like it's just not very like it's not the best. Like there was better quality stuff on the civilian market, so I just bought some of that stuff. Yeah. um but so I'm drinking 5-hour energies and like surviving off like cumulative like 1 to 2 hours of sleep that night because there's like planes flying overhead, there's like flares going off all the time, there's explosions, there's other like firefights happening, there's all kinds of stuff going down. We're just like out in at this guy's like we just quartered ourselves in this in this dude's house, and I'm like sleeping outside. And we wake up and we kind of go on like a foot patrol from that compound. Like some of us stayed there, some of us went on this patrol. I forgot what we were doing. Probably going to like go talk to somebody or something. And we start hearing that we had troops in contact at the compound where we had just slept at. So we're like rushing back. We're kind of like running through like this city, this town we were in, this little town. Um, and then like run through these trees and finally get back to the compound, and they're like under heavy fire like from some tree line. I don't even know how far away, maybe like 500 meters away or something. And heavy fire. I don't know how many Taliban it was, but so I run inside the compound. um, and then at a certain point there's like rockets being shot at us. There's like so much gunfire, like the um, all that moon dust is like kicking up, and like at a certain point I can't even see more than probably like 10 meters in front of me. Like I can't see to the other side of the compound. The compound's probably like double the size of this hotel room. It's not that big. And we had a sniper up on the roof, so you can't, these walls are like 10 meters high, so you can't actually see anything without going outside of the compound, just out into the open,
Mm.
or by climbing up onto the roof of the house, or like this like these mud something that was like kind of elevated to like look over the wall and shoot over it and stuff. So I can't see what's happening outside, and there's only so much space for people to be like looking up over the walls.
Mm.
And um, like some people are outside, and I'm being told to like just stay there. Like it's chaos, and we have our sniper up on the roof, and he just gets shot. Or actually, what happens is I look over and he just rolls off the roof. Like I don't know how high up, like pretty high. It's a 1-story building. He just rolls off the roof, um, and it turns out he's shot through the leg, and the medic's given him what I think is a fentanyl lollipop. I think that's what those were. He's sucking on a lollipop. I think it's fentanyl, um, and he's screaming, and we're calling a medevac, and the JTAC is calling air support, and it's just like the the medevac lands. So medevac is just a helicopter with like medevacs inside, and they got to go like deliver our sniper who just got shot through the leg into the medevac, and they run out the door like of the compound just out into the open. They're getting shot. And successfully put him in the medevac. And I walk up to the walls where we were getting shot from. And I think at some point the gunfire kind of stopped because I think they knew the air support was coming. And the air support comes, and I have this on video on that drive, and they just drop the JDAM. And the whole tree line blows up.
Wow.
Like 500 meters away or whatever. Biggest explosion I've ever seen in my life. Those guys, like if they were still there, if they didn't jump into those Carez systems, these well irrigation systems, and got out of there, like they're like nothing is left of them. And so that's the kind of stuff I guess that was going on over there. We were just in it very frequently. Luckily, the sniper who got shot, he was he's limping back on base like a few weeks later. Like they didn't send him home. Like like why is he back? Um, so yeah, and there was like a lot of crazy stuff. I only saw like a few people get shot. Luckily I was fine. Unluckily, some people were injured. I didn't know anybody personally who died. I had one buddy who I won't mention his name just because out of respect for his privacy, but he fell down one of those wells um, in like out on a patrol. I don't know how far down it was, probably like 50 feet or something like that. Very far.
Wow.
Just in the darkness, he just accidentally stepped into one because they're all over the farmland.
Mm.
They're these wells that connect to these tunnels that go up to the mountains that provide like fresh water to the to irrigate all the farmlands, and they call those like the Carez tunnels, the Carez system. And he just fell in one, and they're out on a patrol in like the middle of Afghanistan in enemy territory at night, and they have to throw down some paracord, which is like this thin
Yeah.
like line to like fish him out of there, and he can't
With
even walk.
paracord?
Yeah, and they drag him out of this well
With
with
paracord?
paracord. Yeah, he's down there with a broken back.
Like this thickness paracord?
Yeah, I don't know how they got him out, but he told me they threw down paracord to him. But his back was broke. We got back from Afghanistan, and like his legs are basically non-functional. Um, um, yeah, I just remember him drinking a lot. And eventually he rehabbed, and like I saw like way later after that he was able to walk a marathon. Like he looks like
Wow.
he's like he's working again. Everything's working again.
Amazing.
But and yeah, yeah, a lot of crazy stuff. And eventually got back from all that. At the time, it was like a very, I would say, I didn't want to recognize at the time how much it actually affected me because I didn't think like PTSD should be a thing. Like we always were answering these surveys every time we came, or like all throughout the army, but when we came back from deployment too, there was these psychology questionnaires asking like if you're depressed, if you're stressed, if you're feeling angry, all this stuff. I just said no on all that stuff because I didn't want to go. Yeah,
Yeah.
just no. Yeah, like no, I'm fine.
They're like, okay, we trust you.
Yeah. Yeah. And for a really long time, I like had a difficult time talking about this stuff to people because, of course, people would ask. But it's kind of one of those things where all of this stuff happened. Like I saw some. I mean, just like with everything in life, everybody's got it worse than somebody at some point. Somebody's fought in a bigger battle. Somebody had their friend get shot or maimed. Like somebody got severely injured. Something's always worse for somebody, and like I'm grateful that um, nothing catastrophic happened to me. None of my like close friends there. Not that I really had that many friends in the army, but none of my friends or people on my team like died or got shot. I just kind of made it back unscathed somehow. Like accidentally went over to Afghanistan for 7 months or whatever. It wasn't that long, and then made it back in one piece. And I had trouble like talking about it when I got back um, because I think it affected me a lot more than I actually thought it would. I would get really anxious and stressed talking about this kind of stuff. Now it's pretty much fine to talk about. I feel like sometimes it overwhelms people to talk to them about it because it's kind of a weird thing to kind of listen to and try to handle. Um, but I think that definitely this is a really long-winded way of kind of talking about one of the things that eventually led to the drinking. Because so we've got this kind of stuff that was affecting me during my teenage years, and then we compound this pretty intense, dense period of stuff going on in the army for a relatively short time period. 3 years, 30 weeks was my contract length. Got out in 2014, and now you have this like compounded on top of that, and suddenly I'm just like out of the army, don't really have any friends, trying to figure out what I'm going to do for a job, and I'm drinking to just sort of like cope with that in a way. And I'm not necessarily fully aware that it's because of the army or anything like that. I'm just
Mm.
like, damn, life kind of sucks like that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, eventually, yeah, I ended up teaching myself to code during that time period. Um, and I kind of had it as like a hobby when I was a kid. I would like make websites and stuff and code my CSS for MySpace. And taught myself to code when I got out of the army, and eventually got a job at a startup in San Francisco, and that's how I ended up in California.
How do you how did you teach yourself to code?
Um,
Because
just Google.
that's not easy.
Yeah, I ecological approach, bro. Actually, when I found out about the ecological approach stuff, I was like, oh, this is kind of how I've always learned everything, just by doing it.
Yeah.
Um, I just started like making stuff.
Hmm.
I wasn't reading about the theory of stuff. I was
Hmm.
just like, it started with like a lot of web application type stuff. So I would just build little projects. I would just, okay, I want to build this thing. I know what I want to build. And then I would look up, figure out how to do it, code it.
Like what?
Um, I don't
What'd you
know.
start with?
Um, I actually started I I remember the first thing I started learning was jQuery.
Okay.
Have you heard of that?
I have heard of it.
Yeah, it's a really old, basically like JavaScript library. So I was learning how to code to build web applications. There's all kinds of newer frameworks and stuff now. The kids don't know what we what we were doing back in 2014, but I started with jQuery, which was just like a JavaScript library that made like making buttons easier, like adding like making when you click on a button, you can make the button do something. And I would build like random little projects like a calculator or like a shopping list or just all these random things that are kind of non-consequential. And it ended up turning into like a portfolio of like, because I didn't go to school or anything, but now I
Mm.
have a portfolio. I have code on GitHub that I
Mm.
can show to like people who are interviewing me. I must have applied to like 50 jobs before I got my first one. It was actually for 3 months at a like design agency in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
So I had moved to Austin for just a couple months, and that was my first job after applying to like 50 or something like that. And but I was still applying because I think I lowballed myself on accident with the salary I got, so I
Mm.
was still applying to other jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But now I had the portfolio and actual company on my resume, so a startup hired me in San Francisco. But that's what, yeah, that's why I just said it, but like the ecological approach stuff, it like clicked because I've always like learned stuff like that, and I didn't know if that was just a me thing or if like that's how humans learn to do things. And I always had an intuition that like when because people would ask me that same question, like how did you learn how to code and stuff, and the advice I would give for that at that time was just like build stuff, like do it,
Yeah.
just start doing
It's
it.
a functional orientation.
It's a what?
functional orientation,
Okay.
right? Like you're not like it's the same with languages and
Yeah.
coding specifically, right? You can the way I learned to code was like, here's a bit,
Mm-hmm.
8 bits in a byte.
Mm.
This is binary, 0, 1, and like you start from like the most foundational theory.
Yeah.
And now it's all this stuff you have to learn that has no application, no
Yeah.
relevant application whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's just this meaningless information
Yeah.
that you could hopefully store in your brain, but like really is just on its way out when there's nothing you can use it for.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And then there's so much of that then doesn't really all connect to like building things.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
then you try to learn all the stuff, and then
Yeah.
when you try to build the stuff, oh, actually this is really hard, and oh man, I guess I'm just not good at this.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to learn more theory. You do that, and then I'm still not good at this. I guess I can't do it.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not smart enough.
Yeah.
Versus like, yeah, if you just put that time and energy into, I want to build things.
Mm-hmm.
So let me build things and let me learn what I need to learn to build this button.
Yeah. It's problems first. You just like, I want to build this thing. Okay, the first thing I need to do is this thing. How do I do that thing? Encounter the problem, learn what you need to solve that problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. So instead of putting all the time and energy into like thinking I needed to go to college and learn the theory of bits and like learn C, I actually tried to learn C a little bit in the army. So like I had started trying to play around with like code and stuff while I was still in the army because we would do like cough duty, which was like we had these like company operations facilities, basically like these warehouses that was like where we would go do our day-to-day stuff with our lockers and everything, like kind of our workplace on post on Fort Bragg. And every once in a while we have to guard they have to have somebody there all night watching the place for some reason. um, and sometimes on that 24-hour duty, you just don't sleep the whole night or whatever. I would just be there by myself, like teaching myself how to code, like rewriting, like doing like a project in C++ or something, trying to figure shit out, like how does this work and all that kind of stuff. And so it kind of started while I was still in the army, just like randomly trying to code stuff. And
Why?
because it was kind of escape from everything, and it was also like a there's something really satisfying about coding because you can build stuff without costing anything.
Hmm.
You can just like have the satisfaction of making something as opposed to like building a table. You have to go out and buy supplies and construct it and lose money like that. And like with coding, you can just like make something and it can work, um, and it was probably free to make. Yeah, there's nothing bad happens if it fails unless you're storing credit card information. Okay, I should take that back. There's a lot that can happen when stuff fails, but
But not when you're building a button and a shopping list. Right?
exactly, yeah. Um, so ecological approach to coding, just start building stuff. I taught myself a lot through Stack Overflow. Actually, do you know Stack Overflow?
The forum, right?
Yeah, it's a forum where people ask questions and then you solve them. It's like these coding questions that people are encountering in their actual day-to-day lives. They're like, hey, I'm stuck on this thing. I can't figure it out. Here's my problem. And everybody responds to it, and you get like upvoted for your answers and stuff. And at a certain point, I was like top 1% in JavaScript. Like I was like
You were
top on the
answering
website. Yeah,
questions.
because I was learning by answering questions. Like people would
No
ask,
way.
yeah. So people would ask questions. I didn't know shit, but I would go like I would go solve their problems, and I would learn like how to answer their questions.
So interesting.
Yeah. So like I'm like this completely new person, and eventually I just like started learning so much that like for a while, yeah, on there, that's how I got hired at like the second startup because he saw that I was like top 1% in the JavaScript realm for like Stack Overflow because I was getting so many upvotes on all my answers and like just kept answering questions for
Wow.
people, just like researching their questions just for my own learning. And that's a big piece of how I learned how to code was just by like finding answers to other people's questions. And a lot of the times I was just like posted like maybe wrong answers or just stupid answers or misinformed answers, but a lot of the times they were right and they
Yeah.
solved the problem. And so that was a big way, was just through like answering people's questions when I was not qualified to answer people's questions. And that's how I think I've learned jiu-jitsu too. I'm not good at jiu-jitsu, but I am almost intermediate at jiu-jitsu, and I've got there
that's
by
bullshit, bro. You're way past intermediate.
Thanks.
Dog.
but just like it's like a problem first approach, and that's helped me in a lot of areas. Same thing with YouTube. How do I make this video? I want to make this video. Okay, I need to do this thing. Research how to do that thing. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need to take a YouTube course. You can just do it by doing it, you know. Maybe I should take courses. Maybe I would be better if I took courses, but
no.
you know,
No.
no.
You would have been a lot worse.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I really think so.
Yeah.
You spent your time in a more effective way.
Yeah, by doing the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, we get to San Francisco. I work at a couple like tech startups, and I meet my wife. I can probably tell this story. She was my Uber driver. And before I got out of the car, because we had been talking in the car, I gave her my number and asked if she wanted to hang out. And that was how we met, yeah. And just for her privacy and all that kind of stuff, I won't go into details about her. We're still like friends and everything. Like she's a great person, yeah. No shit to talk about her.
That's great.
Yeah. She's great, yeah. Very supportive person. So but yeah, for a variety of reasons, probably also like relational trauma from me, and just maybe just whatever issues, us not being the right fit for each other, all kinds of issues. I was coping with that by drinking a lot as well. So now we've got kind of all this history of stuff, and then this new sort of relational thing. I started drinking more on top of that. And by this point, I had started working for a bigger tech company in San Jose. And
PayPal, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, and COVID hits, start drinking more and more, and then we get to where we started at the beginning of the podcast, which is when I started jiu-jitsu. And yeah, and then it all begins.
Yeah, there's a lot I want to dig into.
Yeah.
The next thing is, so it really makes a lot of sense if training is a constant. If you have to train the next day, yeah, drinking is going to make things harder, right? But the reality is you never have to train the next day. We don't have to do anything. So what kept you going? You know,
Yeah.
so there's some interest, you know. I think you said it was your wife's friend that was Vitor, that, you know,
Yeah.
he's an instructor, so okay, like message him and you start coming to some classes. But like, especially when you're in that place, probably where there's, I don't know, can we use the word trauma? You know, like,
Yeah, we can use that word. Yeah.
there's a lot of like past very negative experiences.
Yeah, whatever we want to call it. Yeah.
Yeah, that have had a big effect.
Yeah. I went to therapy for like 5 years or something. We can call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
She used that word a lot. I didn't use that word. She did, but
I don't want to call your experience trauma unless you're calling it. You know what I
Sure,
mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't want to like label
Project onto it. Yeah.
You know.
Go for it. Yeah. Yeah.
So you're in this really negative emotional space because you've gone through a lot of really hard things for a lot of your life, and the things we've talked about here, and the things we've talked about, you know, not publicly. and you've probably got like last coping mechanism left is like drinking, makes things more bearable.
Mm-hmm.
But you start getting the interest is peaked into jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you try the first class. What keeps you going there?
I don't know. Probably it's like an escape from everything. I think everybody knows that feeling you get after like rolling really hard, and
What is it? What is it like to you?
it's like everything's kind of okay for a few minutes, you know?
Mm. Everything's okay for a few minutes.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. So I think that kept me coming back. There's like these problems to solve, of course, but it just like started helping regulate my stress somehow. I think that was it. It was um the first time I had experienced like exercising helping to regulate my stress was actually in Afghanistan, because that's when I started like lifting weights.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, in the army we would do PT, so physical training, but that never really involved lifting weights. That was doing like body weight exercise, and it
Mm-hmm.
was kind of torturous too. They just like try to wear you down. It's kind of not good. It's good exercise. It gets you can do a lot of push-ups and sit-ups and run 2 miles. That was the PT test at the time, was like max push-ups, max sit-ups, and fastest 2 mile run time you could do. I don't know why that's the test. It changed since then. I don't know what they do now, but it
you,
changed a
you
couple
know,
times probably.
just as a quick mention, I always think these things are all social constructs. They can all change.
Hmm.
So something like that, someone watching that is in the military and has control over what tests you could use, there's a lot of things that could be more effective,
Hmm.
right? That like when people's lives are on the line, you want to use things, you want to work towards metrics that are going to benefit and reduce risk,
Hmm.
right? When the stakes are this high, you don't want to fuck around. Who can do the most sit-ups in a minute is irrelevant to these sort of firefight situations you're getting in,
Hmm.
right? There's a relevance to physical fitness, but there's a whole lot more to that side of things that can help people be more prepared in
Hmm.
those situations. Um, and so, if there's anyone watching from the military, in relation to the military, and maybe you want to have a conversation about how some of those things could be changed to make things more effective,
Hmm.
I think that's worthwhile.
Yeah,
You
for
know?
sure. Yeah. One thing I will say is like the PT tests now are not what they were when
Good.
I was in, for
Good.
sure. I don't know what they are now. But some point when I was getting out, they were suggesting they were trying to experiment with what they should do for the PT test. And at some point there was something about like carrying ammo boxes, or like
Sure.
some stuff that seemed to be more,
Representative.
in theory, more representative. I don't know
Right.
what they're doing now.
Sure.
Maybe it's representative, maybe it's goofy, but they would have like consultants coming in trying to. Everybody hated the consultants because they were just like coming up with goofy ideas of stuff to do. But like, who knows? Like, people just hate on everything. But um, but what a lot of so having control over like the army wide physical fitness test, that's a huge thing to change. But what is actually changeable at like the team and platoon level, and even company level, even brigade level in the army, like this is probably more effect you can have at like the platoon or squad or team level. Oh, sorry, earlier, yeah, it's team, squad, platoon, not team, platoon. But I don't know if I said that. They're gonna roast me. But um, at like the team and squad and platoon level, is where, because that's where you have your sergeants and staff sergeants who are like lower ranking, running those groups of people who are normally in charge of every morning's like physical fitness for these people. And they, at least when I was in, had control over what type of PT you were doing in the morning.
Ah.
It wasn't like maybe the captain of the company or whoever would be like, um maybe dictate that every so often or whatever, or you have some guidelines, but normally it's like the platoon sergeant who's dictating what you guys are doing for PT that morning. Those are the types of people who can have influence at like that small level, like of what type of fitness training they're having their soldiers do. So that's probably a more realistic person to implement change at those lowest levels. You
Yeah.
know.
It's interesting sometimes, like when I have these arguments about like ecological dynamics with people, like especially these days, now that I'm like really getting very knowledgeable in it, some of the most back and forth arguments, like the most resistance I'll get is from random people in my gym with no academic training in it whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's really interesting sometimes when you go up the rungs
Mm-hmm.
in like a random guy at the gym to like a coach to a nationally renowned coach to internationally renowned coach,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to like the leading, you know, expert. Like it's very interesting as you go up those rungs and have conversations with people higher on those rungs.
Mm-hmm.
You often get, what I've noticed in my experience, you often get a lot less resistance,
Mm-hmm.
which is shocking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember the most successful client I've ever worked with. That I won't even say their gender, but this person was very well trained, like academically. Had gone through medical school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they said something at one point. So I'm working through a company. They hire me to go train this person, right? So they said something at one point. Oh, you know, this and that, like some sort of like fitness myth.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was like medically related.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember what it was. I was like, oh, by the way, I think it was like something about posture.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh yeah, you know, that's actually not been shown to correlate with injury risk at all. And that's something I get a lot of pushback from people on.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the everyday person. We just sit down and have a cup of coffee. They'll argue with me about it. Having done no academic research on it, like none of that. They'll just argue back and forth, you know, tooth and nail. You know, posture is the root of all pain, right? And this person, when I said that, she was like, "Oh, really?" And like for someone that at this level of success,
Mm-hmm.
to just and that level of successfulness, and also like academic training. This person didn't just like have like a successful business and then made a ton of money. It was like, you know, also, you know, you've got a terminal degree,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think what was really interesting about that for me was it was a level of success where you don't even get to talk to these people.
Mm-hmm.
There are like teams. If they need you, someone on the team will reach out to contact
Yeah.
someone on your team that's going to bring you,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And the implication I got from that was if you didn't know what you're talking about, you wouldn't even be here talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
So just because you're here, you like, okay, like that gives you a level of credibility. Like it was so interesting,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
as opposed to like, I'm an expert, I'm successful, so I'm not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I know like there's a lot of inertia in like the government and the military and probably like many levels of it. But
yeah.
you know, any one of those people that are like somewhere higher up, you know,
Yeah.
like you know, the research is pretty clear. There are better ways to do things.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So maybe there's hope.
There's always hope, you know, like and I think things always change in positive directions over time. It's just how long is it going to take? Who's going to be the one to do it?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually kind of a cool story because like yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, part of it is like just showing like how fascinating it is that people who know the least will often like argue the most, and then people who know the most are often the quickest to like accept new information and change their
Yes.
minds. And
That's how they know so much.
yeah, exactly, because they're like mentally flexible and their identity isn't tied to their knowledge necessarily. It's like they'd rather have the right information rather than be right. Yeah. Yeah, which is pretty
Well
pretty
said.
interesting. Yeah. So like in Afghanistan, I started lifting weights, and we even had a gym on the combat outpost, but it was like it was made out of plywood. Like literally I have a picture of that too. Like the gym, it was like a plywood bench press machine.
No way.
Yeah, I don't know. Do we even have weight plates? We may have like got them like somehow they scrounged them from somewhere. I don't even know. At the end of my time there, somehow a treadmill ended up there. Like, but then of course when we got back to Fob Warrior or even Bagram, like they had full-fledged gyms going
Mm.
on there, really nice gyms. And that was the first time that like that I started like feeling good, like after like lifting weights, just the that endorphin release or whatever is going on when you're like lifting weights, whatever hormone changes are happening. I don't know. It just feels good. And then jujitsu, like nothing since that. Like the only thing was like doing Muay Thai, which I did for a long time, like hard, intense physical training. And then I started getting that same thing from jujitsu. But I'd stopped doing the Muay Thai when I moved down to San Jose, so I just basically stopped doing any kind of physical exercise. But I think that's a major component in like not drinking is because if the alternative to not drinking is just being sober and suffering, you're gonna
That's
choose
hard.
the drinking, right? So you
Yeah.
have to have a better alternative.
Mm.
And if the alternative also happens to work better when you don't drink, that's like the best
Mm.
alternative.
I see.
That's exercise, right? And it just so happens that like that makes you feel really good after you do it. Like hard, intense exercise, I think, is like so key. And also quitting nicotine. Like I think people greatly underestimate um, just what it can do for your like mental health when you're physically healthy. I think that's just a huge component in like um, in not drinking is just being like physically healthy because it just changes your mind, changes how you feel, like sleeping well, eating. People have debates on all kinds of diets and stuff, but um, I think we all know what whole nutrient dense, whatever foods are. Like we all have some relative idea of that's healthy food, that's not healthy food. Like we kind of know what that is,
Yeah.
you know, to some degree. Like, you
Whole
know,
foods.
yeah, like eating whole foods that have vitamins in them and not pizza every day. Or cookout for the past 4 days or however long we've been here. I don't even know. I'm losing it. That's one of the things that yeah people underestimate like the power of is just like the simple things, getting enough sleep, eating whole nutrient rich foods, um, um, not drinking. um, but the not drinking comes from starting to do all this other stuff. So like the exercise, all those things start to like sort of work together to keep your body healthy, and then your mind
Mm.
feels healthy, and then
Mm.
but you just have to like start doing something. Like you have to, at least for me, you have to just like when we were talking about how I would still like track my 2 shots of vodka or whatever. Like that's still a step forward. You have to start like yeah, do one thing, and then you start doing one thing, and you're like, oh, I can handle that. I'll start doing more things, and then suddenly you're just doing like different. It's like the boiling the frog in the water or whatever. It doesn't realize it's getting hot. And if you like keep turning the temperature up,
Mm.
suddenly there's a huge change that you didn't notice was happening during the time. But comparing 2 points in time, you see that huge change. But you just have to like start doing one thing. Like so, yeah, like if you want to clean your house, just start doing one thing, and then you'll start doing all
Mm.
the other stuff, right? And like, um, but um, yeah, I think that's a probably good take home message. Find an alternative that is not just pointless suffering. Yeah.
Do you think the therapy you said you did 5 years of therapy?
Yeah.
Do you think that played a role in getting you to a place where then you were like could deal with like sobriety easier? You know, like you were closer to that?
Probably. Oh, I should mention too, like during that time when I was drinking and everything, I was like 210 pounds. I'm like 168 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, yeah, I forgot to mention that, but I feel like that was probably an important part to that part. Anyway, the yeah, I think the therapy was useful in that it like just forced me to be more self-aware and mindful of stuff, and like being okay with knowing that I was like insecure about certain things. Or
Mm.
I think the biggest problem I had forever is just like acknowledging and accepting and being mindful of how I'm actually feeling and what I'm actually thinking and what my behavior actually is. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a lack of like just being honest with myself. Yeah, it's just yeah, self-awareness and being like, okay, this thing, as much as I feel like it makes me weak for feeling like this or something, I am actually feeling that. Okay, well, okay, and so now what? It's okay that you're feeling like that. It doesn't matter. Um, so I think that was a huge thing, and just being able to like be okay with that. In a way, being okay with your insecurities actually makes you, I think, a more confident and capable person. um,
Do you mind saying what some of those things were that you like the insecurities you had that you worked through or that you became aware of?
Probably like I think a big thing like in the army, like so there was I think in like going this goes all the way back to like high school. There a lot of the situations I put myself in, I felt like were shameful and like remove my dignity, and I felt and people would like make fun of me, or like I didn't feel like I could stand up for myself, and like I just felt like a very weak person. So I
Mm.
overcorrected and tried to act like a tough guy all the time in the army. But it
Mm.
was just like a chihuahua barking, you know.
Mm.
That's why I'm saying that dog in me is the is the
The
chihuahua,
chihuahua.
because it was like it's a small person that like lashes out and is just like mean to people and stuff. Um and I think I had this desire to like to control people's perceptions of me and be seen as a capable, smart, like tough person, when in reality the only things that make you capable, smart, and tough is being capable, smart, and tough. You are only the things that are like that your actions represent. And trying to like make people perceive you in a certain way is like a useless endeavor. You can't control how people perceive you. You can just control what you do. And and like also the a desire to be like a tough, confident, capable person. For what? It shouldn't be for other people, it should just be for yourself, right? And so I just had everything backwards. I wanted to control everybody's perception of me and be perceived in a certain way. And that kind of bleeds into like why I think having confidence is kind of a fake thing unless you're a con man. Because confidence just comes from from action. Like confidence is like just an objective thing. Like you can give things a confidence score, how confident you are that something's going to happen, and you only know that if you are capable of doing that thing or you have done that thing in the past, right? You can't just fake your way into like winning a competition, for example. That confidence is irrelevant. It's, have you competed a bunch? Okay. Do you do well? Okay, then you can be confident that you'll probably be good in the next competition. So all of these qualities and like attributes are built on action and not people's perceptions or feelings or anything. It's all based on your own action, and that's the only thing you have control over. So if you want to be a smart person, then read books. If you want to be capable, then get good at things. If you want to be confident, then do the thing a lot. And it doesn't matter. If you want to be tough, then do hard things. Like all of the qualities and things that you value only come from doing things that are hard, because like there's no such thing as honesty if you have the ability to like lie. There's no such thing as courage if you don't face situations where you could decide not to like continue and do them. There's no such thing as courage if you're not scared. You have like being scared is a requirement to be courageous. like like taking action is a requirement to be confident. Doing hard things that you don't have to do is a requirement to be tough. And those are like things you do. Those aren't, and people can perceive you however they want. That's irrelevant. Like the qualities come from like taking actions in the face of usually something that it would be easy to not do, right? Um, and I think that was probably the biggest thing I learned, and that first comes from like being mindful of yourself and how you're actually feeling about things, because you can't if you're not honest with yourself, like I don't know, how can you be honest with anything, anybody? Like yeah, I don't know if that was a tangent. I don't know where I was going with that, but
No, that was no, that's really, really good.
yeah.
Um, I want to say one that you really are those things, Josh.
Oh, thanks, bro.
Like, yeah, like I am continually amazed by you.
Thanks, dude.
You know, and I don't say that lightly.
Thanks, bro.
I wanted to dig into the core of all that
Yeah.
more. You said something about like you were putting yourself in situations where
I was just in like a lot of very like situations to me that like felt shameful at the time when I was a teenager. Is that what the thing that you're referring to? Like those
yeah,
situations? That is, yeah.
yeah.
So like at one point I was taking like this medication, um, and I had taken too much like on purpose to because it would kind of get you high. Like I forget what it was. It was like Soma or something.
Okay. I have no idea what
I
that
forget what it is, but if you take too much, you get high. And I took like way too much, and part of what it does is like when you take too much, I couldn't like hold myself up to walk, and I took too much like in the school cafeteria when everybody was at lunch, and like I was
Mm,
trying to stand up, and I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, like I just like embarrassed myself in front of everybody, and I got sent home, and I just
mm,
um, lied and said that I had like accidentally taken it on an empty stomach or something like that.
mm.
There was another time I got like drunk at a house party and tried to run up the stairs and steal this kid's Adderall, and he like pushed me down the stairs and kicked me out of the house and stole my phone.
Wow.
And then I drove home drunk and almost like crashed my car at 2 a.m.
Mm,
I went to a prom night um, in Galveston Beach. Got super drunk, just sitting on a sofa, puking into a solo cup, like in front of everybody, which is kind of funny, but it was like culminating, like on top of everything else. Like it was just like this drunk idiot, like. So at the time it was like worse, but it's kind of funny now, like, like,
now that you've gotten through it, we can laugh
yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah. So I was constantly just like putting myself in these positions. Like my best friend at the time started kind of like using me in a way. Like I just became very like sort of like disrespected by everybody, and um like at one point, yeah, like I would be set up to be um like a spectacle in a way. Like this one time, me and my best friend who I thought was my best friend at the time, were like walking in our neighborhood somewhere, and this guy like came up and like offered like a joint, just a marijuana joint. We all know what that is. I don't know why I explained that, but but it was just like, I don't know, it was like used or something, and the friend at the time, he's like, I don't want that, but he's like, Josh, you should take it. You should take it and you should smoke it. Like he wanted to see me like take it and like dance monkey dance and like,
Oh
smoke it so that he
wow.
could be entertained by it, like that type of thing.
Wow.
Like I kind of became this like shell of a person that just needed attention and wanted. I didn't take it, but that is something I would have done. Like that's a type of
Right.
behavior that I would have like wanted the attention for, and like um I guess nothing's changed because now I want attention through YouTube videos. It's all the same. It all comes full
It's
circle.
all the same,
I'm just getting
and
pepper
but
sprayed on
we do
camera
it in
for
healthier ways.
yeah.
Like it's, yeah. I feel like so much, if not all of what everyone does, comes to like filling the holes and
Yeah.
like the missing piece and the insecurities,
Mm-hmm.
you know, are really driving forces for people.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's because it's interesting, right? Because like from my perspective, what did you say? What were the 3 words you said? You said smart, tough,
And capable, I guess. Did I say that?
courageous,
Or capable, I think.
capable,
Tough, smart,
confident.
capable, confident, maybe, yeah. I
It
think that's
was
what I
really
said.
good. It was really we have to like use those 3.
Yeah.
Um, but it feels like you really have become those things, you know? Like it feels like you through your insecurities about those, which probably, this is so interesting because if I had to guess, and I'm extrapolating because I think I'm myself am also similar in the way that I operate.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe tell me if this is how this maps for you. If it's like those were your values,
Mm-hmm.
and because those were your values, and some of us have a really high standard for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when you have a high standard, or when your standard is just higher than where you're at,
Mm-hmm.
that leads to, oh, I should be here.
Mm-hmm.
This is what a good person does. This is what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so this is the insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
This is the amount, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for you, it feels like at first, it sounds like you were trying to address that gap through changing other people's perceptions of you.
Right.
You were trying to make them perceive that you were above here,
Yeah.
right? By like, yapping and like lashing out, right?
Uh-huh.
And probably because you're feeling like I'm here and I'm not enough because this is the enough bar,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And like good is above that, and
Mm-hmm.
shit, I'm down here,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And then it feels like through a lot of work and maybe a lot of like just seeing that like that didn't work at all,
Mm-hmm.
that got you to negative places, that you reoriented to a place of what can I actually control?
Yeah.
How do I actually, these are just values,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're just what you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you actually work not on the perception,
Mm-hmm.
because that doesn't matter, but how do I just be what I want to be?
Exactly. Yeah.
And you've started really doing that stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen
Yeah.
you do a lot of really hard things
Mm-hmm.
and just be very smart and intelligent and wise in a whole smorgasbord of different situations,
Mm-hmm.
and contexts. Yeah, and it's pretty fucking awesome, dude.
Thanks, bro.
Like,
It's kind of interesting how you just said that because it makes me think like those things that I've always valued or wanted to is it also works the same way for things I've always wanted to do. So I actually have a YouTube channel that I privated all the videos on from when I was a teenager,
uh-huh.
like 13 to 16 years old, and the videos actually got like progressively more like I started to see myself turning into like this shell of a human, and like it was actually at a point where when I remembered that I had that YouTube channel that I privated all the videos on, and went and watched myself in some of those later videos, I couldn't even take it. I couldn't watch. I would start like having a panic attack watching those videos, like just watching myself, remembering who I was at that stage of life. But it didn't start like that. The videos started where it was all kinds of random. It was a YouTube channel, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a YouTube channel, um, and um, and the videos were funny. They were like different skits, like comedy skits. And like one time I filmed like an entire parkour video where I climbed on top of my like junior high school and like ran across it. And I was like throwing a tennis ball and like catching it in the next scene, and like all these kinds of like videos. I was super into like video editing and stuff when
Yeah.
I was a teen, and all of that stuff got tied to like this trauma in my teenage years. And so I just stopped doing all of it. I stopped playing guitar, I stopped singing, I stopped doing all of that for the longest time, especially when I got in the army. I stopped doing everything that I enjoyed when I was a teenager, because I had to like redo my entire identity after all that like trauma that I had experienced. Um, but then it came full circle. Like I had always, that stuff had never left me. I still always loved doing that stuff, and now like the childhood dream of being a YouTuber is what I'm doing now.
Yeah, and so we haven't talked about that really much at all yet, right? So
Yeah.
so then you're competing a lot, right?
Mhm.
You've got a tech job, you're set, you're traveling all over the world, and then at some point you make this decision, this huge decision to quit your job
Mhm.
and just go all in
Mhm.
on YouTube, which is wild.
Yeah.
Like wild, and like I would not recommend to anyone.
Yeah, don't do that.
I think I've told you this before. I think
Uh,
it'll be one of the best decisions, in the longer term. I think you'll look back and say that was one of the best decisions I ever made.
I think so.
You
Yeah.
know, but like most people, like please don't do that. You're not gonna make it. Like it's hard. It's really, really, really hard. Um,
Well, that's why we're sitting in this hotel room right now.
yeah, that's why we've been grinding all weekend.
Yeah, getting stunned and pepper sprayed and doing beach wrestling and
um, and so I guess what I find really interesting about this is, like, someone mentioned in I think one of the comments in your last video, they said like, dude was in the army and then like had a top tech job and then like it's now YouTube. Like you you're doing these three completely different things at a very high level, at least just those three things, right?
Mhm.
They're well beyond that. But these three big
I'm
things.
also a gigolo. Oh, sorry.
Four
Oops.
big things.
Oops.
So yeah, that feels like a huge jump. It's a risky jump into something else where there's no guarantee of success. It's
Right.
very hard to get to a point where you're making any money at all, let alone making a living.
Do you think the military helped with your just like endurance to like just keep doing stuff?
Maybe like the military was the first time when I started doing like really really hard things.
Yeah.
Um like running long distances and um yeah, just like doing like long physical activities is just like a difficult thing that I think when you haven't encountered it before, it's like very frightening to do. But once you encounter like in physically things that require a lot of physical endurance, you realize that a lot of it's in your mind and you can like push harder than you think you can. And it's really not that big of a deal. It just kind of like hurts in the moment, but you'll be fine, sort of a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So some degree of that probably came from that. Also, like I did Muay Thai for like 7 years, so like being able to hard spar in rounds, like and still feeling tired, like that for sure helped. Yeah, like I think yeah, you just build that like a certain degree of like mental toughness through like physical endurance, I think.
Yeah.
But so with the YouTube thing, right?
Yeah.
How do you get? I have two big questions for you. How do you get so good at this so fast? And how do you do so much? Like, I feel like I can really appreciate it because, I also am in such a similar space of like
Yeah.
YouTube videos and like, I kind of focus more on the academic stuff. But like YouTube videos and like training,
Mm-hmm.
right, are really connected for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I know how it feels like juggling two huge things where it's like I can't do either of those as
Mm-hmm.
much as I want to, just trying to do both.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me to add like the studying element and then the teaching element is like, oh, now I'm really juggling these things that like are each so big
Yeah.
that it's so much.
Yeah.
And it feels like you do an incredible job of doing all of these things, doing so much of all these things
Mm-hmm.
at the same time. And so I'm curious
Thank you.
how you do that,
Mm-hmm.
like what is that like for you? Is it
Mm-hmm.
easy? Is it hard? What's your approach? Like what's your thought process like?
Yeah. So first, should I talk about like how I learned how to make videos?
Yeah, however you want
Yeah. Um, well, it's kind of started when I was like on that nomad adventure competing and stuff. I actually was like trying to edit my videos on my iPad and stuff. The videos are really bad. Like everybody can just go to my YouTube channel and watch my old videos. I'm not going to take them any of them down for artistic integrity. You can feel free to watch. They're terrible. They're horrible. They're disgusting. They're cringeworthy. They shouldn't be there. I'm gonna private them right now. Just kidding. But I think you have to go through a phase of not doing good in order to do good. That phase just has to exist unless you're like some like weird freak prodigy or something. You have to be bad at something to like get good at something. So that was like the first thing I think was like making really bad videos. Like that was a necessary first step.
I wonder if it's like you could practice in a way where you can't do bad. Like when you drill the moves, you can't
Mm-hmm.
lose.
Mm-hmm.
But doing that, you're not learning because you're not exposed to that at all,
Uh-huh.
right? In the same way, when you're doing the videos, you're actually posting a video and it's bad, but you've posted it. It's out there for exposure and feedback and criticism.
Yeah.
That's when the learning process starts. And I wonder if it's like, yes, you have to be exposed to that to get good at it, but also also the people that are good at it from the start are actually the people that have already gone through the iterative process of being bad at something that's just similar.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the people that like they come to jiu-jitsu, for instance, like there's a lot of people that have made themselves famous for getting good at jiu-jitsu very quickly,
But they
that were
wrestled.
very high level rugby
Mm.
before,
Mm.
right? That's similar enough
Mm-hmm.
where
I know who you're talking about.
there's multiple people.
Really?
Yeah. Um, but it's similar enough, right? Where you're a high level athlete and you're moving other people around and there's no submissions, but if you can do that really well and you've iterated, you've gotten beat up over there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or like same thing if it's wrestling, right? There's tons of wrestlers that like they were pretty good, not even like world champions in wrestling, but like they really iterated in that space and now they go into jiu-jitsu and now boom, like they can really accelerate way past.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bo Nickel talks about how his first day in a jiu-jitsu gym, he was beating up black belts,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
But he just iterated over
He
here.
wrestling. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, keep going. So
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, so I was just posting really bad videos, and then, but I think the thing is like, I think the period that people have to go through to get good at something is like if you have, there's a gap between the taste you have and your skill set,
yeah,
your ability
yeah.
to reach the for your skills to like meet your taste.
Mm-hmm.
um, you have good taste, you know what you want to do, and you just don't have the skills to do that. So you have to keep iterating to improve that. I think the thing that really changed it for me, and actually when I started, I got back from that nomad experience, and then just decided at the beginning of like 2023, I think, to start posting like one reel every single day on Instagram. And during that time, the one thing I wanted to do was improve one thing in each reel that I posted every time, and I had to make the new reel every day. So I wasn't just like batching like 10 reels at a time and trying to post them. I had to like make a new one, post it, and then try to improve something on the next reel I made, and then post that. And I ended up, um, there's like unlimited things you can improve. So you just fix one thing, make one thing a little bit better, and do it. And I did that for like 50 days, and that's when my Instagram first like started gaining like followers and stuff, was because I was just like posting a lot. Um, and then what happened was I took a lot of those lessons for how to like actually improve the video editing and the storytelling and all this kind of stuff. I started like really learning how to tell stories. I think videos is just actually really being a good writer. Making
Mm-hmm.
like editing a good video is knowing the technical bits of editing, but just being a good writer and storyteller. And that comes from figuring out how to tell stories. A lot of people, I think, when they try to get into like video stuff and content creation, they're like get stuck on all the technical stuff. They're like, oh, what camera should I use? What like this and that? What editing program should I use? That's not the important bits that make the good video. Those are tools to help like facilitate that. And so the things that I really started focusing on was like initially like storytelling frameworks and stuff. Like if we're gonna get
You
into
knew
the
that from the get-go, or was there a moment where you're like, oh,
how do you
this
tell a
is
story?
why?
Yeah.
Well, did you know from the get? Like, for instance, it took me a while to realize, oh, storytelling is the way to make a video engaging.
Uh-huh. I didn't know that. No, I didn't know. I mean, I kind of intuitively knew because like some of my favorite YouTubers was like Casey Neistat was my first ever favorite YouTuber, and like I knew he was telling stories and he was good at telling stories, but I didn't know how he was doing it.
Right.
I'm like, how does this make sense? Um, and I started like trying to understand how people actually tell stories, and I started looking at all the frameworks first. I was like, okay, there's Save the Cat, there's the hero's journey, there's the story circle, there's the that but uh but so South Park bullshit, like all of this stuff, and I started trying to like implement. My first video that did well was this judo video, where I went and sparred at this giant open mat for the first time ever against all these judokas. I was still a blue belt at the time, and I it's actually if you look at the Save the Cat beat sheet, are you familiar with that?
You may have told me about it a little bit.
Yeah, there's a book called Save the Cat, and this guy basically all these like Marvel movies and like Hollywood movies follow this story framework. And there's these beats in it, which are these like key sort of moments you want to hit within it. And I mapped my judo video directly to that beat sheet in my writing. The whole thing's just like a voiceover. It's not even it's just me getting tossed around by judokas, but it's a story. But I've made it follow a storyline. I forced it into this framework, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the first video that did really well. And then I was like,
What
oh,
were those?
the beats and everything.
Yeah.
There's a few of the main ones, like the opening image, like what you open on, that translated into YouTube land, that ends up being like the hook.
Mm-hmm.
Like you open up on this hook that like sets this context, and then there's a few of these other things, and then the next like the main one of the next main ones is like the theme stated, and then the catalyst, and then break into act two. There, I'm missing a lot of the beats, but and then there's like at some point you build it to the like a false victory, and then at some point there's like regroup with the team, formulate a new plan, get like an actual victory. It's like all of these like if you look at any of the Marvel movies, the reason they all feel the same is because they're all following the same storytelling structure, as do a lot of these Hollywood movies and stuff. But once I realized that, like that, the way people were making these videos is by telling a story. I just started watching YouTube all the time. My favorite like creators, like Ryan Trahan, is one of my favorites. Um, I try to make these videos not like a martial artist, but like try to make a good YouTube video, and it happens to be about martial arts. And I actually just make videos like all of my favorite creators, which obviously I watch these martial arts creators um, like we were just with Seth. Like Seth is one of my favorite martial arts creators, right? And like I watch martial arts, but most of the YouTube stuff I watch is actually not anything to do with martial arts. And so I just like, why do I like these videos so much? And I apply those concepts to the YouTube videos I make. I try to apply those concepts. And a lot of it is like storytelling, and I figure out like what techniques they're using to tell these stories. Um, and that's when I started, I think, the stories started getting better when I started thinking of bigger ideas, not just like, hey, here's some rolling footage of me and here's some commentary, but rather what's like just an inherently interesting topic and how can I tell a good story about it, and then edit it to that basically. And that only I don't know if I'm good at that, but like that's what I aspire towards, and it only happened through like iterating and attempting to actually like it's the same way I learned coding. It's like you just have to
It's
like
like this is becoming a recurring theme.
yeah,
That this
exactly.
is the most effective way to learn like anything.
Just by doing it, yeah, by like I know what I want to make. I want to make a good story, maybe inspired by like this particular YouTuber, and I want it to be yeah, about this thing that happened. I went and did medieval grappling. Okay, I'm gonna make a medieval grappling video. How do I tell the story? And then do that, and just keep doing that, and try to do it better the next one. Yeah, and like learn from other people. Watch YouTube. It's like I didn't go to like film school. I didn't like take a course on lighting or on cameras or something like that. You just do it by like doing it. It's yeah. Um, People think you have to know how to do it before you do it, but you know how to do it by doing it. Yeah, that's the most representative environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you I'm always curious how people balance their training with everything else.
Yeah.
How do you make that work? What's your
Yeah, so I don't do a lot of things. That's the trick. It's like by just minimizing the amount of things that I do, and I say no to a lot of stuff. And initially, when I was on this big push, trying to like do like 3 YouTube videos a month or whatever, I would just like wake up, train in the morning. I only train like 4 or 5 times a week. It's not that much, or 5 times a week. And do a couple weightlifting sessions on top of the jiu-jitsu training.
so like 8 times a week?
Yeah,
Only 8 times.
yeah,
But like maybe we'll do a competition
yeah,
here or there.
yeah. Okay, maybe it's a lot. I don't know. It's not like sumo level training where they're training for 3 hours and sleeping and then training for 3 hours, but the training doesn't it's not that long. You like train for an hour or 2 hours or whatever, um, and then I have the whole day to like try to sit down and focus and edit a video, which is like that's a grind. It can be a grind depending on like what the video is, because you like you just it's just a grind.
You saw how long it took me to
do
get
the
the
sumo?
sumo.
Yeah.
Oh my god, bro.
Yeah, dude, it's just a grind. Like you just have to like. That's why I realize if I'm enjoying editing the video, it's probably a good video and it was probably a good idea. Yeah, and those aren't as much of a grind because it's like, oh, it's exciting to like edit this video, and those are the type of videos I try to make. And yeah, and then I just edit the video throughout the day, and then I have the evening free, and then I then I do. Yeah, it's just a very narrow focus of attention. Like I have very few things that I do on purpose, and like when I have to do more things is when I start um uh is when it starts becoming more difficult. So
Yeah.
there's only a few things I do: train, eat, edit videos, and then in the evenings like hang out with friends or my girlfriend or something like that.
No sleep.
Oh, and then sleep. Yeah, and sleep.
We don't have time for that.
Yeah. No,
Okay,
actually,
okay.
I go to bed like generally pretty early.
Nice.
Yeah, and like, um, yeah, I don't know. It just takes effort. I don't know. It just takes focus. You just yeah. It's not that much stuff. If I had like a job, it would be really hard to have a job and edit these YouTube videos. Like editing the YouTube videos is like a full-time thing. I'm spending hours every week editing. Like I'm editing throughout my entire workday.
I mean, there was a time where you were doing all of that, though,
Yeah,
right?
and that's
You
why I
were
quit my job.
editing, you
Yeah,
were filming, you
yeah,
had a job, and you were training and competing.
yeah. It was too much. Yeah, that's why I quit my job because it was sucking my soul, and I was like, I can't. I was like, okay, what the classic advice that people give is to like try to like build up your income in your secondary gig and then sort of like transition over into that when you are making enough to be stable, but that takes a lot longer to do. So what I did instead over all those years of working in tech was I saved up enough money where I was like, okay, even if this fails, like I have a little bit of money that I can fall back on just in case, and I can just go get another job as a software engineer maybe if I, somebody will hire me. But um so I was like, okay, how do you be a YouTuber? You just be a YouTuber. And like like I wasn't making even enough money technically to like pay my rent, so I was withdrawing from savings for the first few months because I quit last June. So it's been, how many days do I have left till it's been a year? 22 days.
Oh boy.
I marked 365 days a year from when I quit my job, June
Do
4th
you
of
want to show
2024.
the camera?
Yeah, 22 days left till it's been a year since I quit.
Oh.
And I wasn't making enough money to pay rent. I was withdrawing from my savings, and then now there's been a few months where like I've not made not only enough money to pay rent, but also all of my other expenses. So I've like broke even, and that's only happened a few months. But I'm pretty close to being even most of the time, just like in a little bit of a deficit. But it only goes up. So
That's really impressive.
thanks, bro. But it requires a lot of output because like
Yeah.
the ad revenue is directly tied to the views, right? So that's why we're here getting pepper sprayed. It's for my paycheck.
I'm out here hoping this is somehow going to convince more people to learn about ecological dynamics.
I'm trying to pay my rent. Yeah, so it was just like, yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal because I had like some money to fall back on. So it wasn't like I just had no money and then I was just like, oh, I'm gonna quit and like pray that I make it and like everything's gonna work out. Like I have it was a little bit more mature and rational than that.
Hmm.
But I definitely didn't wait until I was making enough money on YouTube before I quit. Like I was making no money on YouTube.
Like a little bit, right?
A little bit, yeah. I was making like $700 in a month on YouTube.
Yeah.
Which is like nothing. That's like not even enough for groceries in San Jose.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now I can like, pay my rent and almost break even most of the time. So I'll take that.
That's great.
Yeah.
So just the last few kind of closing questions now. So one of them is I have a bit of a pet peeve with scientists, academics, who do all their work in this bubble
Mm-hmm.
of other scientists, right? And then they complain when people don't understand their work.
Mm-hmm.
Or worse, they don't even complain that other people don't understand their work.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my sort of missions has been like science education. You know, how can we take this stuff, dig into it, and then help people understand it?
Mm-hmm.
But my question for you is what your advice might be for those researchers and experts where they've got something really good,
Mm-hmm.
right? They've learned something important. There's a theory, there's a practice, there's something. And what they need to do is get their work out there
Mm-hmm.
to more people, to get their work approachable, understandable, accepted, used,
Mm-hmm.
and they're struggling with it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, and I think it's got to be said that like the first step is like intention and just trying to do that. So if you're just trying to do that, that's already a win.
Mm-hmm.
But for those people that they've taken the first step, they're trying to get that work
Mm-hmm.
understood into the general population.
Mm-hmm.
What would your advice be for them, if you had any?
Yeah. Well, you either need to like talk to somebody who has a platform and is interested in that subject matter. So if you're an ecological scientist, gotta reach out to somebody like Bren who's interested in that subject matter and has a platform, right?
I'm gonna get all the zoologists or all.
You're an ecologist. Right, you have to like either do that or you have to like create your own platform somehow, I think, right? And like start just talking about it and posting videos and explaining it, and that's the only two things I can think of really, right?
Sure. I think we'll have a longer continued discussion about this for
Yeah.
a few years, you know.
Yeah.
Because I think this is an area that I'm just continually interested in, and it's just hard.
Yeah.
My next question is if you have any advice for other people that are in a darker period,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you were going through, where I really think this is, for a lot of people, where you're at right now already is like a huge success story. And this will inspire a lot of those people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like hearing your story and like your last video, we'll link it in the description, like was really, really great.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for those people to get to a better place?
I think what I said in my video at the end, which is just do something you've always wanted to do. I think for me at least what it came down to is finding out what is the purpose of anything really. And it seems to me at this current point to be to do what we're designed to do, which is actually pretty obvious when you think about it. Like the example I give in the video is like bees. What do bees do? Bees fly around and go to flowers and make honey, and they're really good at that. It seems as though they were designed to do that. Bees aren't doctors. Bees do bee things. Trees do tree things.
Mm-hmm.
What do humans do? Humans have this desire to like be really good at things and do those things. For what purpose? I don't know. That people like Alex Honnold is really good at free soloing. So he does that and he does it really well. You're good at studying ecological dynamics and making YouTube videos about it. And you're doing that. And I assume there's some fulfillment in doing that. Why are you doing that? I don't fucking know. I don't know if you know either. Does anybody know? Like, we're all going to die and it's not going to matter. So you might as well make videos about ecological dynamics. Like, why not? I don't know. Humans just like whatever is in their nature to do is just like, just do that. Like, do the thing you want to do. and and that's like the whole point of like being a human, I think, is like doing that. Yeah, doing the thing you want to do, because why not? The alternative is to not do things you want to do and then die. So it seems like now it seems like a pretty simple answer to me. Just do, yeah, just start doing the thing you've wanted to do before. And I think people can easily identify that for themselves. I can't think of a case where like how like where somebody doesn't know what they want to do.
Mm.
Yeah, I think people do know what they want to do, but there's all these like obstacles and ways we block ourselves from doing those things. And there's a line from Meditations where like Marcus Aurelius says, "Don't think of yourself as like," I'm butchering the line, but it's like, "Don't think of yourself as incapable, but rather think if it's humanly possible, then you can do it too." Like, um, that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody can be like an astronaut, but because there's like things that are outside of your control. Like if you have asthma, you're probably not allowed to be an astronaut or something, you know. But like if you want to make YouTube videos about ecological dynamics, you could be like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough, or like maybe people aren't gonna watch my videos, or this like this topic is too complex, like. And like for me, about making the YouTube channel, I could be like, you know what, I'm not gonna make money from it. I'm not gonna be able to make interesting enough videos that people are gonna watch it. Um, but you really don't know until you try it. And even if you weren't successful, what does it even mean to be successful? You should change your definition of success. Like on a long enough timeline, most people are going to be successful, I think, at the thing that they try to do. And it mostly just, it's a numbers game of like trying enough times and failing enough times and trying to do it over and over until you can do it. Because if you're just stubborn enough and like reasonably smart, I think most people can do most things that they want to do. Or they'll just suck at it forever and die, and who cares, because they were doing the thing that they enjoyed trying to do. So either way, it works out. And if, yeah, like I don't even know what failure is. There's no failure like in that sense. Just like do what you want to do. Um, and um, yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. But I think that's like, yeah. Um, yeah, just doing the thing you want to do. And yeah, I think things just kind of tend to work out in a way, I think, if you do that. Yeah. I think the thing is like people often are the primary blocker of their own selves from doing things. Because it's impossible to like say whether something is going to work out. And people are like waiting to get ready to be able to do something all the time. They're like, when I'm smart enough to do this, when like this thing is set to do this, when that thing is set to do this. So what you're really telling yourself is that you need perfect circumstances in order to try the thing that you want to do. But those perfect circumstances are probably never going to arrive. So you're just going to wait indefinitely, not doing the thing that you wanted to do all that time, and then die. Right?
Yeah.
So just do the thing now. You learn to do the thing by doing the thing. You're never actually going to be ready to start the thing. Um, you're just delaying indefinitely because you're scared that you might suck at it, when in reality you have to suck at it in order to get good at it. And even if you suck at it indefinitely and you still enjoy doing it, then you still win.
Totally. I think there's a tendency I have sometimes to like for certain things right, like one classic example I guess for me is for workshops. I was like, I'm not going to teach any workshops. I'm not going to teach any handstand workshops until I can do a 30-second one-arm handstand
Mm-hmm.
on each side. you know,
Mhm.
like an incredibly high standard. Like most people when they teach handstand workshops, like they just got like 30 seconds, you know, on two arms.
That's me.
It's like and then most people they get to that point, like sometimes even less, and they're like,
Uh,
ah, yeah, I'm gonna teach a 2-hour handstand workshop at my local like yoga studio, you
mhm.
know. And most people can't tell the difference. But what I realized, so I got to that point,
Mhm.
right? Um, or actually, technically, I have to say, well, yeah, I got the average well above 30 seconds
Mhm.
on each side. But then I realized that took me a very long time.
Mhm.
I don't know, 8 years,
Mhm.
somewhere
Damn.
around there. And then so I realized now I've gone 8 years and I have no practice whatsoever with running workshops.
Yeah.
None.
That's the
I don't
thing.
even know the first thing about like who do I reach out to, you know, like how is this done? Like who's the promoter? You know, like do I post on social media? Do I use Eventbrite? Do I use my web? Like
And the time passed anyway,
the
and you
time
could have
already
been doing
passed.
it that whole time. The
Yeah,
time still passed.
so I have this inclination to like for some things that I want to do that are a little like bigger, where I look at people that are successful doing it, and I try to like analyze, okay, how did this person make it work?
Mhm.
How did that person, like, what did they do? What did they do, right?
Mhm.
And I realized, I think earlier this year, I realized like, oh my God, like I could have been spending that time just trying to do those things,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I could have just
You could
been
have just
iterating,
started doing it.
you know, like like this is not a productive use of my time, you
Yeah.
know? This is not you cannot there's some level at which you're never going to replicate someone else's success by doing someone else's solution
Yeah.
to their problem in
Yeah.
their context,
Yeah.
right? Like
Mm.
it has to be embodied in your context, in your environment, and you don't learn that by looking over there.
Yeah. You have to do it. It's all comes from inside of you. You have to do it in your. Yeah. You're the one who has to do it your way, and you can like see how other people are doing it, but they all did it their way. They all did it for themselves. They did the thing. You have to do your thing. You have to do it.
And,
Like they're not gonna do it for you. Yeah.
and it's just like when we were talking about the techniques, right? Like if you're just looking at the techniques, but you're not sparring,
Mm-hmm.
that means nothing to you.
Yeah.
But when you're sparring and you're running into the problem because you're like, I'm not finishing the DARS, now you can look at how are other people finishing the DARS,
Exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
And now it has a context to be applied to and you iterate.
Yeah.
Last question.
Okay.
You have, what would, last question. What's the best advice or wisdom you've ever been given or read? What was the most useful for you? Advice or an idea?
Mm-hmm. A man is only as unhappy as he believes himself to be.
Nice.
Yeah. I think that was Marcus Aurelius.
What is that? Can we unpack that a little bit? I'm tempted to like just leave that, but what does that mean to you?
It kind of gives you back control over how you perceive the world, because you realize that like you have the power to be happy now. I have this quote as a screenshot on my phone, which is, if what you have like always seems insufficient, if what you have seems insufficient, then though you possess the world, it would never be enough. You're putting off happiness now by just wanting more all the time instead of being grateful for what you have. But this is another one of those ideas that you have to juxtapose two things at once. That doesn't mean you stop pursuing better things, right? But it's this weird thing that I constantly am trying to like come to terms with and like actively like implement in my life all the time, of being grateful with what you have now while simultaneously always trying to like progress and do better and like do even better. It's a weird thing because it's not as if you should like stop trying to progress, because actually what fulfills your purpose is doing what you're designed to do, which is making progress in some way, somehow doing something. But then also never having enough now means that you'll never be happy now. And now is all you have. If you're not happy now and your life is just a bunch of nows happening that are never happy, you'll just never be happy, because the future is also going to be the moment now. And if you can never be happy in the now, you'll just indefinitely be unhappy, right? There's like happiness doesn't exist in the future. Like, you know, there is no future. It's now. And like um yeah, that's something that like I try to remember, and that's kind of one of the hardest things. But there was another quote. What was the other quote? I forget the quote. It was something along those same lines as that stuff. But yeah, just constantly like delaying happiness for what? You know?
Have you read Albert Camus?
No.
One Must Imagine Sisyphus Happy.
I
You never heard this
haven't
one?
heard that, no.
Oh, but so he basically wrote this book
Mhm.
with the thesis being one must imagine Sisyphus as happy because the work itself is all a man needs,
Mhm.
all a person needs
Mhm.
for happiness.
Mhm.
It was never about, it was
Getting
never
to the
about the
top.
top of the mountain. It was
Yeah.
about the work. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, because you're gonna die anyway, and nobody's gonna remember. Everybody knows is gonna die.
No one's gonna care.
Yeah.
Like nothing was gonna happen at the top of the mountain anyway,
Yeah.
right? So if you can appreciate the work, that's all you need.
Yeah. It's a good note to end it on.
Yeah.